Fine.
Hello. I'm gonna wait and see if people trickle in. We have not been here in a really long time. Andrew! Already we have Andrew here. If you're here with us, why don't you give us a shout in the chat? Just so we can say hi, see who all's here. Oops, someone's asking me for the YouTube link already. All right, let me figure this out. Just gonna casually. Actually, if there is someone working in media here who could send a YouTube link into the RFI chat, that would be amazing. I think I know just the person. Nicole. Nicole, how are you?
I'm trying to connect my YouTube, but I don't know if that'll help or not. It's kind
That'd
of
be awesome.
wonky.
Yeah, it's
It's
weird.
telling me it gave me a whoops message, but we'll see. Let's see if I
if
can
you
get somewhere.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Okay.
I'm going to give people a couple minutes to trickle in, but today episode is sponsored by Religious Trauma, The Black Horse, Too Much Bourbon, Benwood's Bookshelf, and The Corridor of Glory. Benwood isn't actually here with us. I think he's working a real job. But I've missed everybody. Yes, Julie, you are definitely the techie that I needed. Jessica, hey, good to see you. So I don't know. I'll give our intro. There's Cregan.
Oh, there's Cregan.
Now that there's, I don't know, 9 people here. Yeah, the Black Horses are masked. I have a Black Horse mask somewhere on my shelf. I don't know.
You should have an official image or
really should like a
action figure, maybe.
Yeah. No. So if you're joining us for the first time, which I doubt any of you are, Open Spaces is just a community of people who are processing together some of our experiences, most of us from IHOPKC, but today we've got Adam and Melissa with us, who have also been at Bethel and Morningstar. I don't know, which way have you both been at Bethel and Morningstar?
He's been at Morningstar. I've been to Morningstar, but he really spent more time there.
Yeah, I spent time at Morningstar, IHOP, and then Bethel. But that's how we met, was Bethel.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then we got Janelle here, RFI. And actually, why don't you guys, well, I'll give my little spiel. So I don't remember the spiel. You guys probably know. It's fine. Poor Brantley, if he were here, he would give the spiel. We're not going to debate. We're here to process our experiences together. We want to hold space for people who you're going to hear tons of diverse opinions. So you're going to have people who are more agnostic, atheists. You're going to have people who are Christian. You're going to have people who are still charismatic. And the deal is you get to come and be exactly who you are. And we're actually wanting to hear your experiences, and we're wanting to hear your perspective. And you might hear me bridge a little bit between perspectives, but the point is to find the common ground and connect and find a way to help us all, I don't know, muddle through it together, I guess. So yeah, we got the report coming out next week, and Janelle and Adam and Melissa were kind enough to come on here. So I'm going to let them introduce each other real quick, and then we'll jump in and start talking through. So cool. You guys gonna
ladies first.
Janelle, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I got introduced to IHOPKC through Bethany College of Missions in Bloomington, Minnesota. There are actually a lot of students that kind of have started there and ended up at IHOPKC back and forth. So that was, I believe, 2019. I want to say 2019. No, oh my gosh, 2009.
I'm like way longer ago.
No big deal.
2009. So I was up there. That was when the awakening was happening in KC. And so there was a lot of people going back and forth. we actually used a lot of IHOPKC's teaching in the program at Bethany College. So so we were already super familiar with, you know, the whole curriculum that was being taught at IHOPKC at FSM. So yeah, like when I finally ended up at IHOP in 2012, you know, that was the whole Deaton case was happening, and you know,
Yeah.
really rude awakening to, you know, this is how leadership operates. And so yeah, I was there for a couple of years as a FSM student and prayer room staff. What to do? It's a big deal getting that little name card. but yeah, that's my experience. So really being able to speak the widespread influence that IHOP had, you know, outside of their official, you know, prayer rooms and such. And definitely seeing a lot of the same patterns of abuse, control.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know what else. I'm long-winded, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what all you want to hear
No,
about me.
this is good.
Perfect.
We'll cover the rest when we chat. You know,
Yeah.
it'll all come out. How about you guys? You want to give everybody your little elevator pitch of who you are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Elevator pitch of
Yeah,
spiritual
so I
trauma.
might. Yeah. Let me tell you about my
Yeah.
spiritual traumas. Yeah, so my main connection to this whole movement is really Bethel mostly. That was kind of my introduction into all this. So I did BSSM for 2 years, the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. Yeah, so that's kind of my introduction to this movement. And I never attended anything like that, but I loved the prayer room. So like the prayer rooms, Forerunner music. And I listened to a lot of Mike's teachings on the end times. Like I was really impacted by that. So that's kind of my connection to IHOP. And then we met, and you are the one that has the main connection. But
Yeah.
we didn't actually experience like spiritual abuse per se while we were at Bethel. Like we actually had a experience there, but it was what happened after we left. So we left Reading and pretty much went to a cultish, high control community that was really, really bad and lived 4 years. So it was like the teachings there and all of that stuff that was pumped in us set us up to stay longer in that really toxic community that we were a part of after that. And so it's been a long, long journey of healing from post-traumatic stress and, you know, just religious trauma. And
Yeah.
we really, after our experience, what was it 10 years ago we left?
No, it was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually. Or 13. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I mean, that's the short version.
Yeah. And just add a little bit, like prior to that, before we met. So I lived in Kansas City from 04 to 06. I was not formally at IHOP, although I had a lot of overlap with IHOP, with Metro, and an organization I was a part of that was under Metro that had a lot of the same people leading it that eventually went to IHOP and to help lead IHOP. And so there's a lot of the cross currents and, you know, cross pollinations that I've had to, like, over the years,
Yeah.
even though I didn't know that's what it was deconstruction, but like, you know, been on this thing for like 12 years and it's kind of been dormant, honestly. A lot of it was dormant and just we've just been poking along, living our life over here until everything at the fan in October, right? And then it's like freaking peel your skin off and you're reliving things that you thought that you dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so many things that I didn't know that was there. And I mean, I'm at the point now, I mean, we've been, you know, I finally found the courage to speak up because I went through my own spiritual abuse experience affiliated with Kansas City and Metro, and I'm not ready to name people yet, but maybe I will at some point. But it's connected to, if you go back to Bob Scott's book, I placed myself in that book,
Oh, what
in the
a weird
story,
experience.
and that book right there, when I read that book in September, frickin' pulled the whole curtain back for me.
Yeah.
Because it made sense of people that were in leadership at that period of time at both Metro and IHOP in those earlier years that were directly involved in what I experienced when I was with this organization overseas. So I'm, for me, like every day is different. Like some days I feel completely angry. Other days I'm just numb. Other days I'm just in pain and I'm just like at the place now where I'm ready to put everything on the chopping block, like peel everything back. I still believe in
Yeah.
God. I believe in Jesus, but everything else, like put it all on the block, man. So that's just kind of, I was long-winded there, but just a little bit of my history. And then we met at Bethel and sort of, yeah, she kind of covered that. So that's my little intro. Thanks
That's
for
a good
having us.
intro.
Yeah, thanks.
That was a good
Yeah.
intro. It was really
Yeah.
like, I can just relate so much to that. I was telling a
Yeah.
friend I want to go to the report what Michael was saying in 1 second because I'm having feelings about that, and but just like literally tying those two things together. So that's been the experience, and then I had this little lull, maybe like where things started to settle. Brantley's not been able to be on. And so we had kind of taken a hiatus from open spaces. I was really burned out anyway, and had some family stuff going on. And so then we had talked about like, oh, well, maybe we'll bring open spaces back. I'll drag some other poor souls on here with me. So Brantley's, able to come back and so as it made the report coming out feel more real all of a sudden. And so last night I was telling a friend, I was like, I don't feel like I can predict, like you were saying, you felt all these different emotions. Some days you're angry, some days you're numb, and I was like, I don't feel like I can predict where I'm going to be emotionally tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's really disconcerting. And Paige Weber and I did like a whole thing. I don't know if you guys go on the Open Spaces page, you can see it. And I'll drop a link to it later. But Paige Weber did like a video about. I did it with her, but very much like I was just like, oh, this is how mental health works. Thank you. I need to sign up for more therapy. I was not like offering anything. It was very, very much her. She's phenomenal, but just talking about like making, dealing with all that stuff, dealing with all those emotions. And there's me dropping the link magically without even touching it.
Nice.
But it was just so it was a really I'll just say it was really validating to hear that that's a normal experience. That's a normal way of feeling it. So anyway,
Susan, can I ask you a question?
yes.
Because I'm like one of your biggest fans. I mean, you know that. I've told you, like your contribution to this whole thing has been like invaluable. Can I ask you what was it specifically about that you're highlighting there? Maybe you said it, but I just want to make sure I grab that. Like, I'm trying to ask this question in a way that makes sense. There's like a nut there that you kind of highlighted that I felt like was really helpful for me, but I just wanted to get a better understanding.
I mean, I think that the unpredictability of the whole experience, because like you said, you were just saying it, like we're reliving stuff we thought we dealt with, and knowing how like finding out that was normal, and that but also holding space for the fact that it's like just super disconcerting, has been really uncomfortable. and I think though that I don't know, it's been a really weird experience, but I do think that like leaning into that discomfort a little bit has actually, I want to say like maybe like expanded my capacity to manage myself and manage the trauma. And I don't know. I think
Like
it's
embracing like the unpredictability of it. Like because you mentioned you couldn't predict how you're going to feel the next day with this big report coming, which is like, I don't know, just talking out loud, like some of the, you feel like a loss of control in some of that, right? Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, there it is really like there's moments in this where I've felt like profound loss, profound grief. There's even fear. I'm watching fears come back up. Like I realized yesterday, I think I randomly shared online. I was sharing about just a couple interactions that I'd had with Misty, because we were friends and she was going to be in my wedding, and not like a bridesmaid. She was going to she offered to like officiate it when I was going to elope. She was going to fly down for it, and she had the tickets and a dress and everything. And she offered to play, and I was like, no, just be there. Just be my friend. And then her sister ended up getting married the same week, and she couldn't come. And so like I shared a little bit about just like these bizarre interactions that I realized where Mike was like controlling us and how much we interacted and stuff. And, you know, like I would sit in her cubby sometimes. I was really, really depressed for a little while. And so she would have me come and she'd have me sit there during her sets while she was singing. And Mike found me there, right? And he got angry. And now it's like, okay, we know why. He was probably protecting his office space, being weirdly territorial. He was probably expecting her to be there. And it was like, he probably, it was a control move, you know, like as a wild card. And Nicole got married in 2005. But in 2005 was also when he tried to break up my relationship with my husband. And so I realized yesterday that literally since I have had an anxiety about deep friendships that has been ever present since then, because you had all these relationships. I talked with like 3 different friends about this, and it came up like weirdly naturally. Like we were all feeling the same thing, where it was like, you had these relationships you invested in so deeply for so long, and then they were like gone, done
immediately. Yeah.
And some of them got like
100%.
super effed up, and in ways that felt irreparable. And then suddenly I'm back in the same spaces with some of these people, and then there's people I had no relationship with, or tense relationships with, where I now have like a friendship with that's developing. And there's this, so with the report coming up, it was like this terror came up of like, okay, but now what if I lose all these friendships the exact same way?
Okay. Yeah.
And that was terrifying. Like the community that we kind of built, like all of it. And
that's real, man.
And I want to right here, feels like another layer of the trauma onion is about to come off. Yeah, it does. There is a weird, with the report coming out, it's every time a news story comes out, I find something else that I'm like, oh wow,
I know, right?
I relate to that so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I realized.
No, it's me. Oh yeah, no, go ahead, Melissa.
No, I was just gonna say, you said something last night. I was like thinking about it, and I can't remember what it was, but it made something click for me in my process, because I, without going into it, but stuff with BSSM and Bethel, I'm doing a group with that, and it's like re-triggered all my stuff. And I didn't realize that was what was happening until you named it. I'm like, oh, that's what's going on. Like, that's why I've been hyper vigilant for the past 2 weeks. And, you know,
Yeah.
and I realized like there were some people, anyways, without going into it, like there was some lack of safety in some of the interactions. And tonight someone came in and just kind of like came in and supported me in some comments. And I was like, so I was like just thinking about the power of that, like
Mhm.
safety and support. Like you know, like as we're like I'm speaking out and sharing, right? Like when you have that kind of coming against you, like I realized that was reactivating like more. And
Mm.
so just yeah, I guess I'm just saying I relate to that. And I am like was reminded with what you said. And then tonight and in our own little BSSM group, just like, yeah, thank you. Like I really needed that supportive comment to like come up and be like, yeah, you're right in what you're saying here.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah.
but
No, that makes so much sense, because I think part of what I'm trying to articulate is like okay, I'm gonna pull up this comment because this is gonna help focus me on what I'm trying to say.
Emily. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say pull that one
I
up
was just
because
reading that
I
too.
know
Yeah.
it's so good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Even like so, the friendship relationship aspect is so real. Even before it was hard, then it felt safe at IHOP. But then I lost it again when I left IHOP, and I never let myself process that. And
Yes.
I never let myself process those losses that way. I just didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know that I knew how to. And there was something Paige said on the thing we did that was really helpful. And it was human trauma takes humans to heal. It takes human healing.
yeah.
And so I think some of the there's also been messes that have been really painful and harmful, and that's been real too. But some of the really traumatic things that happened, as those have been brought up, there have been people who are safe and loving, and it's different people. It's not always the ones I would hope necessarily.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's been early on in this. There was this Bjork song that, of all people, John Rizzo sent me. It's got good taste in music. And it's a cover, but no, it's not a cover. He sent me a cover of her song, so it is by Bjork. But she's got this line in there that's like, it's like talking about love and how there is love for you and there's healing for you. And it might not come from the sources that you poured yours into.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And I had this moment where it was like, but her point was, you have to trust that love is available and then lean into it where it is.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And I realized that I had all this investment, like even with IHOP, where I wanted the love to come from there, from those leaders and those people, and they weren't capable of giving it to me. And I needed to not look for healing from there. But then I had this moment like last week where I processed this really painful thing with a friend of mine. And she really just sat there while I cried about it. I mean, it was just me crying about it. And there was neither of us were saying anything profound, but there was she was actually just present with me and how much I had just needed. So all these, it feels like so many of the same traumas coming up because it's the same people, it's the same space, it's the same abuse.
Yeah.
But someone's with me who gets it. And even when it's just, like you said, someone in the chat, like someone in the chat, it was like, that's real, that sucked. Like, and I'm like, and so that difference in my experience, I was so alone. I mean, I was so profoundly alone. I used to have these dreams that I was suffocating in outer space. And no one could see me or find me or hear me. And it almost feels like that reliving, but there is something better. There's another comment I want to bring up. I just wanted to acknowledge this. Every time a new report comes out, I have a panic attack for really real reasons. Yeah.
That makes
It's
sense.
really hard. It's really, I've had, I don't know if anyone else has experienced like that kind of, I don't know about you guys when you, I mean, for me, it ties into my own abuse and my own trauma, you know,
Yeah.
and bring that up. But, oh, Nicole just being profound. Realized how many incredible people I missed out of building real relationship with because of brainwashing into solitude.
Wow.
But that's what kept the abuse so hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And it did, because there's all this shame around it. So,
But look at how that's changing, though. I mean, it's, so many people just coming out of the woodwork, openly sharing their experience like you're doing, Susan, like whether it's, a blurb on Twitter or, I'm going to do a 30-second video, on whatever platform, like I'm going to share my little 2 cents of my story. And I think collectively, we were talking about this other week, like, I'd like to think that the more of us that do this, the more it could be like some kind of reformation. I don't even mean that in like a spiritual way necessarily. It's just more of like a collective in society, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
collective awareness that, hey, the fact of the matter is you got thousands and thousands of people that are they're laying in the freaking road, man. They were left.
Yeah.
And to your point, like a lot of solitude, like people are just trying to do their thing, live their life. They're in pain, they hurt, they might meet somebody else. And I'm with you. Like I've reconnected with people I hadn't talked to in 20 years since I lived in KC. And it's been so life-giving. It doesn't make it all go away.
yeah.
You still have raw pain and everything else that comes with it. But like those meaningful connections it's weird. It's like what you said, Susan, you don't want to lose that either. But then you also want to lean in, like, I don't know, I'm just speaking for myself. I want to lean into that too and sort of figure out what it means to trust people again. Because I've been so walled off in my own life. I used to be the guy that trusted everybody,
Yeah.
but I hardly trust anybody anymore. But it's kind of cool to like step back and watch yourself. Hey, you're actually trusting people again. You're actually choosing to open up again some. And that's been kind of cool. I guess a cool outcome, but not, it doesn't justify all the stuff that happened, of course, but I guess it's a sort of a byproduct of.
I mean, I like who I became. I like how it changed me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose. I think I had like a little bit of a moment today where I realized that, like, I don't know if you guys ever feel this, but when I think about like little Susan at 19, right? Like going to IHOP and just how like pure that Susan, like that, like hope, and that like I really wanted to be there for good reasons.
Yeah.
For sure.
I didn't know a lot about IHOP. And there was a mix. Everybody's got a mix. I had some mess happening in my life too. But I really, really, I wanted to be a part of something that was doing good.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to change the world for good. I thought we were going to be loving people in the neighborhood. And I just thought it was going to be different. But I really deeply cared about people. And today I realized that, I've always talked about how the people they made us, that's why they're having, that's why we're able to give them hell. Because we're like, yeah, we'll fucking work 24/7 for a cause that seems hopeless. We'll take on the world. Like, we're gonna fucking shifts set up. But today I had this moment where I kind of realized, like, that person who went to IHOP whatever it was in me, that is actually what drew me back, and it wasn't a bad thing. And that had me come, because for a long time I've wrestled in this, like going like, okay, but why am I here? Can I just not let this go? Can I not?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying with that.
Like, why am I not moving on? Right.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and that felt like a shameful thing for me. Especially because like you got like freaking Malachi out there being like these obsessive demon slanders out here
I
for
can't even.
clout.
I can't even. I can't watch from today. He put. I just can't, bro.
I'm like, buddy, I have a real job.
Right. Exactly.
I have so many more followers.
Like, oh
on my
wait,
book
you don't
account,
have just magic money, Susan. You don't just have
I'm gonna
like
say
magic
it here, but
money,
I can't
period,
say
but-
it somewhere else. But I've outsold Malachi's wildest dreams for his stupid ass book. Triple sold. He would take his 100,000 copies and shove them up his ass because I've sold like 300,000 copies of our picture book. So you shut up. I get so I'm like, you're so proud. That's a dumb goal. But that's what I write picture books about really stupid things. They're plastic dinosaurs. They're not even like the cool ones that you see with like the cool art. Mine are like literally
Oh, come on.
dinosaurs.
They're pretty cool.
They're fun, but I'm not, I think where I was going with this before I got on my whole tangent, Brantley's not here to interrupt me, and it's hard. Is that
I'm gonna interrupt you, Susan?
yeah, you do.
Would you want us to help interrupt you? We'll help you.
But I'll finish this thought, and then one of you guys is just gonna have to take the baton. Is that
All right.
is that I realized that the part of me, I've always been ashamed of the part of me that went to IHOP. And there was I was trying to like reclaim that. Like, I feel stupid for being duped. I feel stupid for whatever. But then I also like I felt stupid for coming back on some level. I was proud of it, but I also felt a little stupid. And I realized I had this moment today where I was like, no, those same really good parts of me, they are why I left. It's why I came. And it's why I left. And it's why I came back again. And I have actually been the good part of me has been consistent. And that felt really, and I just kept thinking about one of my friends was talking to me today, and she was just like, when I realized how, I think she'll be fine that I said this. But she's like, when I realized how many people were being harmed, I just sobbed. And I couldn't get over it. And like the fact that I've been part of it. And I think we've all felt that. Like, I remember just living in Kansas City, watching people go to IHOP and just feeling like responsible, because some of them were from my home church. And some of them were people my husband knew. And I knew there was nothing, like they had seen us there and we hadn't had a chance to tell them. And then by the time you find out they're there, it's too late. They're in.
Right. Yeah.
And then just watching it for 15 years in Kansas City, it was really hard. And I don't know. So it was like, I'm having a hard time describing it, but it was almost like this. For the longest time, I felt like IHOP broke me. I felt ashamed. And now I feel like you fucking didn't. I'm the same person, it turns out.
Yeah.
That was just really hard to deal with.
100%.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I love that.
Yeah, I definitely went through that myself, of just like, oh my gosh. When I started taking classes in university, like an actual accredited university. And so the professor had made this offhand comment about cults, and he just couldn't understand, how, someone would get sucked into a cult. They must not have any brains. And I was like, dang, like here I am, like listening to this rant, this mini rant that he had. And I was like, he has no idea. Like, and I had often questioned that myself. I was like, I want to point out Anik's comment, sincere. Like, we were so
Yes.
sincere. We were so like, we poured our hearts and our souls into this and gave everything to it. Like,
Yeah.
the sacrifice and walking away from the what could have beens,
Yes.
and asking myself after all of this, like, how did I fall into this so deeply? Like, how did I trust these people that turned out to be actual evil people? And I did a lot of research for one of my classes, and just really investigating like the movement in the evangelical world that was happening in the 80s and 90s. And a lot of it was like this huge response to like third wave feminism and how can we get our women back in the home and be mothers and be good wives. And I remember like my parents, like we went to a Presbyterian church at the time. Like it was very conservative, very low key. You did not raise your hands in worship. Like that was, big no-no. I think the only lady that did, it was this cute little like Korean lady that we had, like the one person of color in the entire congregation. And like, realizing how far reaching these movements were with like evangelical explosion and promise keepers and focus on the family and teen mania, teen challenge, like all of these seemingly isolated ministries, but their influence was very widespread. And I remember for myself, like, my parents were super like, we're only watching Christian movies. We're only doing like the Abeka, like homeschool curriculums.
Oh my gosh, Abeka.
Like, we're gonna, you're not allowed to play on Sundays, and like all of these rules and stuff that we had. And then just like, oh my gosh, my brain went blank. I was going somewhere and I totally forgot.
So much.
You're talking about like the homeschool and then the more traditional like the movies and the Christian.
Completely like set me up to fully embrace these environments. Like even though my parents were like charismatics, like that's too much. I was set up with all of these programs and ministries to, they looked very similar. They had the same, doctrination that was happening. And I remember now, the Columbine shooting that happened. That was a huge push into, because there was the one family where the girl, they claimed that she died for Christ. And I specifically remember my pastor really made a big deal about that. And, there was this huge push on the youth being like, you have to be radical. Like you have to choose to do the most radical thing that you can think of, go against society.
That was a huge push to be radical. I forgot about that. That was huge.
I did too, yeah.
And then like the purity movement, like all of those things. Yeah.
I'll just give a shout out to John Collins on this. Like he has done the research on like taking that thread back historically, because it predates all of us, right? It goes way back to even before latter rain. Like you look at where dominionism got its roots, and all this stuff's working its way out and coming up to the surface now in situations like you're talking about, Janelle, with like family, work, the professional life, and then of course it moves into politics and government, everything. And it really is a lot like the Crusades. It's just that most people aren't carrying around swords and and shields, but for all intents and purposes, they kind of are, because they're like they're putting their boot on people's necks and like dictating the bold. So
I love that you brought up that radical thing. Like that
yeah,
really
Yeah.
That was
resonates. I feel like
huge.
that's in all these streams, right? It's like
Hmm.
the extreme that is pushed on us. I think about that too. Like far removed from ministry for so many years now. It's like it sucks every ounce. You're expected to give every area of your life over
Hmm.
to church to look back, and it's so unhealthy. Room, right? More toxic. It makes it more you're all in, right? With felt like that with Bethel. Like we were in on everything. And then we go to normal getting this like hole. And it
yeah,
was like it was so damn. I think I used to do like the messaging too. Yeah. Like I think for me, I look back into my like childhood and like the compliance kind of base. Like I was a chronic people pleaser, and I'm still
Yeah.
yeah, and how that fawning like it's
Hmm.
so encouraged, you know? And so
Yeah.
I think it just sets us up to right for authoritarian control and narcissistic abuse. And
yeah,
it's just, yeah, anyways, I just really resonate.
yeah. Me too.
I don't know if you
that's-
guys.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dr. Steve Hassan. Stephen Hassan.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
love
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. So I started following his Substack recently, and this is kind of jumping back a little bit, but it ties in. But he's got literally a section on how intelligent people, it's this myth that, intelligent people wouldn't join a cult, like, because I think we all feel a little
Mm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah,
like
yeah.
idiots.
Mhm.
And
Right. Yeah.
I'm just gonna read it. What they
Yeah.
would
That'd be
say
great. Yeah.
that, what they fail to realize is that cults intentionally recruit valuable people. They go after those who are intelligent, caring, motivated. Most cults do not want to be burdened by unintelligent people with serious emotional or physical problems. They want members who will work hard with little or no sleep. Man, is that us?
I know. That's like that nailed it right there. Yeah.
Yeah. They want members who will work hard with little or no sleep. Most
Yep.
of the former cult members I have met are exceptionally bright and educated. They have an active imagination and a creative mind. They have capacity to focus their attention and enter deep states of concentration. Most
Mhm.
are idealistic and socially conscious. They want to make the most of themselves and make a positive contribution to the world. And I'm like, that's exact. I was incredibly idealistic. I was socially
Mm.
conscious. And that's also what pulled me out was I saw,
Mm.
I just was, first of all, I was depressed as hell. But secondly, like, I was like, you can't just keep throwing people in the prayer room and tell me that they're, when I was 19, maybe I kind of believed you with a little check, Dave Slyker, but gazing on the beauty. Yeah. I will totally share the link with you. This is just it's his Substack / also resource center. Like, I'll read his stuff and just be like, and he even does stuff he talks about political cults. He talks about
Yeah.
like, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying your politics make you a cult. I'm saying within our politics, there are cults.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
happen across the board.
Mhm.
But so it's really helpful to know this because this is literally what he studies. And he also came out of a cult. Ben! Ben said, I remember watching videos on YouTube with people who left IHOP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they were just seeing my
Yes.
safe. And here I am now.
Yeah.
I know. Here I am, a demonic slander, chasing.
Stay away
clout
from
and making
those
money.
people.
Yeah. But like that was really validating to me. And I can't remember. I did actually have a way to segue it into what you guys were saying. Let me see what Emily's saying really quick.
Oh my gosh,
here.
Emily, Book of Martyrs was literally like the book.
Oh
that
my
I
gosh,
read.
yes.
As a
Okay.
child, I read that book more
Yes.
than any.
Are y'all talking about the fox?
That was my bedtime
Yes.
story. The Book of Martyrs.
The Fox
I
Book
don't
of
know how
Martyrs?
many of us
This
How
is
many of us have read
radicalized
Fox's
we
Books of
were.
Martyrs as a child? Yeah. How to
Yes.
radicalize your kid. Columbine was right when we moved back to
Dude,
the US. I
nothing
was
like
scared.
some light reading at bedtime, right?
Right? I never stopped being constantly scared of having to be ready to be martyred at any given time. I mean, who didn't fantasize about saying, I won't deny Christ?
It's true. It's
Yep.
so
You know,
true.
while looking down the barrel of a gun.
Right.
How
Meanwhile,
many
actually,
people have felt called to martyrdom, feeling, oh,
my
yes,
God.
I believe
Yeah.
that I'm going to die young. Like so
I
many of us.
when Reef and I got married, he was tormented when we got engaged by the idea that he would be asked to deny Christ. He was like, I would fucking deny Christ for you. He didn't say fuck because he didn't swear. He still didn't swear. I swear. He's a good person. But he married me and here we are.
He's
But
a
he
good
was like,
The
God,
quote of
I
the-
would deny Christ. Like, I can't just let her die. My whole job is to protect her. That's how he was processing it. And it like the man was having a crisis.
Mm.
And I mean, because we're like 19. He married me at 19. I'm 20. But like that is a real, like that is the kind of trauma we were putting people
Yeah.
through. They were putting people through psychological trauma because
Yeah.
they would sit there and tell you, they're gonna take your kids and they're gonna be like, we're gonna murder your kids in front of you. You know, and they're gonna
Oh,
torture
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You're
And
gonna
then
deny
here, let me
them.
add this. So like you have that, you're teaching your kids, and then young adults, you get thrown into IHOP, and then the other movements too, right? That have a lot of eschatology attached to it, apocalyptic teachings and things like that. And this is some of the stuff I'm learning from John Collins is there's actually a name for that, and it's actually a death cult.
Hmm.
And he's got a whole
Hmm.
he's done all the research on it, and it's like those two ingredients, martyr, like the martyr complex mixed in with eschatology.
Oh wait, you can't forget the gaslight of, but don't fear, right? Like,
Yeah.
like all these teachings, but then like you can't fear, like you're not allowed
Well,
to have any fear.
and it's no wonder that we, of
Like, so
course, we
ridiculous.
didn't care for ourselves. We didn't care for our physical bodies or the
Yeah.
fact that so many of the students were standing in bread lines, like
Yeah.
being willing to live in poverty, and like the bar was lowered so much in terms of how we cared for ourselves and our families
Yeah.
as a result of like these ideologies of this mindset.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. Like, yeah. We observed that at Bethel, and looking back, that's one of the things we're like, what the hell? Like, why were you up there talking about your French laundry dinner and your sports car while your students like
Yeah.
didn't know where they were going to get their next meal? Like, I feel angry when I think about that. I'm like, something's wrong there. Like, it's just unnecessary. Sorry, I get on my soapbox with that, but
Oh no, I'm with you. Believe me, every time I see Chris Vallotton's car, I want to punch him in the face.
His car got keyed a while back.
Hypothetically,
Oh,
in the spirit.
Hypothetical. Yeah.
Zuck watching me like that girl is always talking about burning things down.
Who's talking about that?
No, me.
Who?
Me. I talk. No,
You.
no one. Nobody. Not me. Other people.
about burning stuff
Malachi
down?
O'Brien has said that several times, actually. No. But I want to change directions. What are we at? We're at 8:19, so we're almost at the 1 hour mark. So at the 1 hour mark, guys, we drop a link for you guys to be brave and jump on and chat with us. Oh my God, Jesus. Anyone listen to that sermon Mike did with tips on how young mothers can survive in the end times? Oh my God.
Oh,
No, that's too much.
that's
That is
terrible.
too much. Yeah, I
Terrible.
was on my way out by the time my kids came around. I had one baby there, so she's born, and I'm like, there was some traumas as I'm like birthing her, and I'm like, this is so bad. So I had a playlist, and I was on my way out, and I knew, and so I had I was starting to deconstruct some things, right? And so I'm listening to, I had like Sufjan and some really sweet songs happening. And we had like picked up a whole playlist. And the playlist ran out because labor was kind of long. And all of the sudden, as my oldest is being born, I'm like birthing her. My mom is randomly there because it's my first baby. And like, it was complicated. And so, and Reef's standing there, and all of a sudden it's like, what is this? I'm so triggered even just thinking about it. I was pissed too, because I was like, I don't even know about this. I didn't know how I felt about this song, but I definitely didn't want it playing while I was having a child. And all of a sudden I like kind of like come to, and I hear, God is a lover looking for a lover. So he fashioned me. And I was like, I don't even know.
Oh,
I was like, it's not prophetic. It's not prophetic. It's not prophetic. It's not prophetic. I wanted to cry. And I was just like, and I couldn't like turn it off. Like there was just like, because I'm birthing a child.
yeah.
It's so bad. So that was a great moment where I have just intruded. That just feels like it encapsulates what IHOP does.
Oh my
It's just
gosh.
like, it intruded into every moment of our lives that
Yeah.
like should have not been shut off from it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to shift. We're about to have some people on the missile meter top during childhood. John, it's good to see you. It was just too much. It was so much. So I wanted to bring up this thread. We've got the report coming out. Michael brought it up and then waited. I don't even know. He might have left. He might have been like, bye. But I wanted to read this thread that somebody did on the report coming out because I'm hoping we like what I've been trying to do for myself so that I don't spiral into doom is like figure out what I can expect from what I know. Because we don't know a ton. We've never seen like the work product, right, of Firefly. Like with Grace reports, we can like look at some of their previous reports that have been released and we kind of know what to expect. And with him, like we don't. And the scope doesn't include spiritual abuse. So like he could comment on it. He said he probably will in cases where it like was used for grooming. But it's not in it. I don't know how much commentary he's going to get. It could just be factual. I heard it's kind of long, but I don't know how long exactly. And then we're going to have the FAI report, theoretically. Frontier Alliance. Help me out, somebody.
Yeah, I think you're right. Frontier Alliance International.
Yeah, which is a weird name now that I'm saying it out loud. No shade, but
look it up.
You know,
Pretty sure that's right.
And that is a Grace report and significantly smaller. And I know Grace's reports are way okay. That is right. Okay, thanks, Julie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we're gonna have. So first right off the bat, we're gonna be comparing it to a Grace report, which is like right now I would call it the gold standard.
That's the words I was thinking. Gold standard. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul's already calling it. The report won't be long enough. And I have to be honest, I do expect that it won't be long enough to be satisfying. Ben, I got you. And by I got you, I mean I'm not going to throw it into ChatGPT and give a summary. I'm just kidding. But maybe I've done that with
You could.
I might do it depending on how I'm feeling. I actually might do that at first to put a level of distance between me and the report, depending on how much
bad idea.
Yeah, depending on how much bandwidth I have.
Yeah.
I might do that. Because I think it's going to be, I think when you take in, because I mean, what are they saying? 200 people, right? And when you take in the magnitude of that and then you distill it into like a stack of paper, and there's going to be people we knew, I don't know how much we'll be able to recognize, but I mean, that feels heavy. That feels hard. And I don't totally know how to process that. So I might do that first to kind of like wrap my brain around it, because it feels, like you see a horrible thing on the news.
Yeah.
And it's so big you can't wrap your brain around it.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like
Oh, yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And I know it's not going to do it justice either, because it can't. Not because Jim's not good. I don't know about how he is, but yeah. So I wanted to real quick read this, and then I want to hear everybody's feelings. The only thing is that ChatGPT hallucinates some with lots of text. That's a
It
really
does, though.
good
That's true, Allie.
reminder, Allie. Thank you. That's true. I do pay for Pro, and the 4.0 is better, but sometimes it gets a little bit like it starts dreaming some dreams.
Yeah, it goes in circles.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna pull this up real quick, and if you guys want to throw what you're thinking in the comments, I'm gonna read those comments in a minute too. So if you want to, just let me know how you're feeling. I had this queued up, and then I went away from it for unknown reasons. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. In fact, I don't know if I have technical help that's unnamed, but if I did, that would
implied.
But if I did,
did.
and they could pull up the Shocking Holy Saints thread, let's see. Okay, wait, I found it. And I know how to present. I've been taught this, guys,
You
by
got this.
someone so helpful. Brace for impact. And I have IHOPKC thread. Here we go. I have this handled. Wayne. I can do this. Present. God, this is embarrassing. I feel 85. Share screen. Boom. Okay, share. All right. Can you guys see? No, you cannot.
Here it comes.
Hey.
There it is.
Right.
You did it.
Brace for impact, and I have IHOPKC thread. So this is really helpful just with some expectation setting. And so I read it and was kind of like taking it in. It gave me like a layer of wrapping my brain around what's coming. The Firefly report addressing IHOPKC is expected soon, with submissions from around 200 individuals. For those who shared your stories, your courage matters, and there's a community here in full support and respect. So I just want to pause there. If you're someone who's got the report coming out, a lot of you guys are going to be watching this later tomorrow. There's usually around 100, 150 people end up watching at least part of this the next day. Sometimes it's like 600 people. So if you're one of those people, know that we really are around. You can drop us a line anonymously at Open Spaces. If you're in RFI, you can write an anonymous post and say, hey, I'm struggling. You can jump in the chat and say, hey, I'm having a shitty time. In RFI, we don't have chat in Open Spaces. I've thought about it, but I don't know. The point is, people are around and really care. I have been somebody I have done an anonymous post, and I was a fucking admin. So the admins knew it was me, and I knew they knew, and it was fine. Like, they knew I was struggling, but I didn't want everybody to know. And I've been the person who jumped in the chat freaking out. So I just want to say that. And sometimes just having someone around is good. All right. So if you chose not to participate, I'm so glad you got to choose what you wanted to do. And that's so key, because there are real reasons to be nervous, and that's okay. Your well-being is most important. I hope you found care and support elsewhere. This will be a significant moment for many. Reading a factual report will end up being very helpful. And I think that's true. Like, Grace gives a lot of commentary, and with 200 people, just the facts, that's going to be insane. Like, the amount of abuse that occurred is nuts. Mm-hmm. All right. The legal system, The legal system often doesn't fully address harm in cases of institutional abuse. Internal investigations follow very different standards like preponderance of evidence. So they're going to use language like more likely than not. So if you remember McNamara report, that's some of the language we're going to see. We're going to see stuff like more likely than not, or we're going to hear when there's clear and convincing evidence, the words that are going to be used are substantially more likely true than not. So they're not going to say this happened. And that's a really good expectation to have, is that you're not going to hear this happened or this did not happen. You're going to hear more likely than not. And that's not a bad thing. That's how this works. And that was really helpful for me. Just because when we're reading statements from like IHOP, or we're reading statements from Tikkun or anybody, we kind of rip apart the language. And in this context, there is a framework for how the language is used. And it's important to understand that language. So for example, we've got here the screenshot. It's more likely than not that Mike Bickle engaged in inappropriate behavior, including sexual contact and clergy misconduct in an abuse of power for a person in a position of trusted leadership. Okay, and that's the McNamara report, which was horrible. Paige is coming in with an allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
While those processes aren't perfect, they can help bring clarity and truth where traditional systems have fallen short. So that's where this report kind of shines, because the systems we have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. And you can't do that in cases of abuse often, because it often happens without any witness but yourself. While these processes aren't perfect, they can help bring clarity and truth where traditional systems have fallen short. And with the report's release approaching, some affiliated with IHOPKC are already questioning its validity. But it's important to ask, are these concerns based on genuine issues, or are they attempts to shield individuals? It's all Malachi, by the way. Or are they attempts to shield individuals and the institution from accountability? The pattern's not new. Reports like the Southern Baptist investigation have shown how institutions often prioritize protecting leaders over caring for survivors. Mm-hmm. And so then there's a link to the Guidepost SBC report. And it says, despite confirmed misconduct, suits between SBC and former ministers are ongoing. Yeah. And so that's a little that was a little hat tip from Shocking Holy Saints. They have some experience in this type of field. And we are possibly, so I want to put that on the table. Don't be surprised if IHOP sues. Don't be surprised if one of these leaders sues. Or attempts to sue. I hope that doesn't happen, but that has nothing to do with the validity of the report and everything to do with protecting their income streams. Mm-hmm. And that's happening right now, which is why Malachi ended up jumping on this slide, because he defended Hunt and got himself a job with the SBC, and then he defended IHOP and got himself a job at there's a pattern with him. Yeah. So, and if you don't know who Malachi is, Malachi O'Brien is a board member at IHOPKC, and his board position happens to come just roughly around the time when he was defending IHOP, conveniently. After institutional abuse is exposed, certain patterns often emerge. Denial and efforts to discredit survivors. So that's probably going to come again, and we can prepare ourselves from that. Public attempts to restore leaders, financial campaigns, targeting less informed audiences. Absolutely. There's already funding right now for the Department of Church Accountability, which is Malachi's thing. It's likely also being funded by Daystar and Charisma. There's some evidence pointing to that. It's definitely Malachi. It's definitely stupid and kind of embarrassing. But I want to highlight this comment by Paige. Paige, you're going to drag you up here later. Your story is your truth. No one can take or change that. And I really, just for everybody who reported it, I know it's really hard. I know I have some friends whose reports have come out publicly, and it's really difficult hearing the counter arguments, it's okay to not look. You don't need to look. None of us are going to be swayed. There are hundreds of people who are with you. There are 200 people who are with you. Just right off the bat, there are 200 people who are right with you. What I'm gonna come back to this, Andrew.
Yeah, there's a whole lot on that question.
Yeah, but we got his number. All right. Transparency is critical as these events unfold. So keep talking. And I want to say, take the break you need and trust that there are people who are going to fill in that gap for you.
Yeah.
There are a lot of us. We know how to do shifts. We kept a fucking prayer room running for like 25 years. We do shifts. We know shifts. We got this. Take the break you need. We Open Spaces was out for months and people didn't stop talking. So when reports are like, and I'm going to read this whole thread, it's long, but I think it's worthwhile. It was really helpful to me. So when reports like Fireflies are released and institutions or leaders sometimes push back through lawsuits or public challenges. This can feel intimidating, but it often reveals more about the systems being protected than the individual speaking out. Cocoon may even face legal action. Also, remember there's a current case against IHOPKC. A hearing is set for March 10th, 2025, and court record updates will be available. And then there's a link there. So I will drop this link in the chat when we're done, because it's got some helpful links. But that's that case where IHOPKC failed to act when a minor was sexually harassed, bullied, etc. at a retreat. So there is stuff in the court systems validating this, and it's really important to remember that because I think we're extra vulnerable when something like this comes out, and then you get gaslit to hell. And it's a familiar gaslighting, so we're like predisposed to it, and to it being effective because it's hitting us right in our area of wound.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. If you've had conflicting thoughts for a long time, give yourself grace. It's okay to feel relief, confusion, even peace as you process. Healing takes time, and you don't have to do it alone. It's also okay to feel rage and want to key someone's car. I don't think you should key someone's car, but like, if you did, I wouldn't be mad. I have a list, and I could give it to you.
There is a burn book.
There is, yeah. We're all tired of the games, cover up, and complex dynamics, but it isn't over. And that's true. Lastly, many have walked a similar path. Canuck Facts has followed abuse stories related to the camp for a long time. And there's actually a lot of overlap between sorry, hold on. If you ever want to feel validated, there's overlap between the people who are pumping up Camp Canuck. That was I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Kanakuk. Kanakuk, yeah. I'm infamous for misreading things, but there was tons of abuse covered up there of children. And there are people who funded IHOP who have promoted the chief's prophecy, who also were highly involved with Kanakuk. And so there is a common thread where it's these people, you see the stuff they're made of, right?
Yeah.
And they have a vested interest in protecting all of these places because it furthers their interests. And I think we're going to see more of that network. Like some of it's being revealed. Malachi's leaky as hell. You can see, if you ever want to figure out how the networks connect, just listen to Malachi blab. It's insane.
And then pull their 990s.
I know, right?
The ones that file a 990, although some don't.
Yeah, some will. I'm sure there's similar developments in many states. In addition, there is ongoing work to establish laws related to clergy sexual misconduct and abuse against adults that many of us can support. And then they list some related articles. And then much more could and should be said, but these are just some thoughts I wanted to share today. And then they added some some lines, some helplines and stuff. So yeah. People laugh about shifts. It's just, it's a lot. And sometimes on the one hand, it's really validating, right? And on the other hand, the more you dig, it can feel really overwhelming. And I was feeling overwhelmed earlier this week because you're like, man, every major organization is like this, and then they're influencing politics. And I don't care if you're conservative or liberal. That's not the point. The point is, these are people stopping clergy abuse laws from passing. These are people who are trying to make religion mandatory, and they're effing up our, like we can't trust that people are going to prosecute clergy sexual abuse, any kind of sexual abuse, if this is what they're hiding and they're finding other like, you know, that, and that's scary. And at the same time, they're having, like, Daystar is a $1 billion industry, billions and billions of dollars. I mean, they are filthy, filthy rich, and they are having trouble with like 30 people on Twitter. like it's like destroying them. There are people like polling their, you know, and so
they can dish out the cease and desist to the bigger podcast channels and YouTube channels and stuff, but like, you got all the little people, you know, out there, and there's only so much you can do. It's like putting a screen door on a submarine. At a certain point, like, the water's going to get in.
And I was telling this friend this because we were so frustrated, right? Like, Malachi was just, he was bullshitting. I think he was talking about how so Andy's not on here tonight, I don't think. But
Hailstone.
Yeah, Andy Hailstone. But you know, Malachi's like, I contributed to so and so somebody's funeral who hates me. And Andy was like, so I knew he was gonna bring this up. So I saved the screenshot for when he did. And it was so intense that when Malachi donated, Andy's thought was, he's going to use this to manipulate people later.
Wow.
It's so evil. It's just complete abject evil.
But people don't fall for it because Andy's just Andy. And if he knew that, it's like the fact that he knew that and then was able to flip that back online like that was like, I mean, it gave me this moment where I was like, if we are who we are and we just keep being who we are, we don't have to force it. If you're tired, you're tired.
Yeah.
And Andrew were like, $50, so generous. I was like, throw Andy's Venmo on here and we'll send him $5 and out do Malachi right now. Like, whatever. It's so dumb. It's such a like whatever happened to don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
you come and bragging. Yeah. Like, good for you. You sent $50. Well, a bunch of us spent like hours on the phone. It was like Christmas Eve. And we were on the phone. I don't even remember what day it was, but it was like, I mean, it was to the point where my family was like, get off the phone. I was like, there's a dude going to IHOP with a gun.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't know what you were.
And Brantley spent, I can't even, Brantley spent hours talking to this guy who was gonna go, and he did. He literally went to IHOP with a gun and chains to chain the door shut, and the FBI took him into custody and held him and everything. I mean, he was there. It happened, and we worked the phone lines to try to stop it. And so I'm like, good for you. You gave $50. I've given $50 to people I don't even know on the internet. We all have. It's called a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
You know, that's just basic humanity. That has nothing to do with justice. And people see through it so quickly. And I really do think if we keep being who we are, it doesn't mean you all have to. I'm not saying this as like a we all need to rally forever. We have lives. You get to go live your life.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's enough of us who are really invested because this is our culture. Like this is the stuff we grew up in that made us who we are, and we see how it's impacting the world. That I don't know. We're going to keep going. Also, if you guys want to jump on, anybody can jump on. I need more people to interrupt me. Clearly, it's a problem.
Are we not interrupting enough?
I don't know. I monologue. It's bad, guys.
There should be a mute button for you.
Honest to God. It's triggering all of you guys, by the way. Someone muted and unmuted me? Jesus Christ. I don't know which one of you. Comment is making me so happy. I thought Malachi was a boomer, and I was today years old when I learned he wasn't.
I was today years old. Yeah, somebody put a comment on that Twitter thread under his video, like, "Oh, I just found out you're 35."
Like, this is embarrassing, man. Like,
I thought you were an old guy.
You know, he was
my
really
gosh.
into crypto and NFTs, and that was a whole thing. And at some point, I got to find the gossip on this because it was so funny. Somebody was like, Malachi, you owe me so much money. And I was like,
Yeah,
what?
I feel like I saw that. Yeah, that's been a few months, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I was like, what? And I like started looking, and like I guess he had this like NFT or something. I didn't understand it. But then like the Discord he was on was like, F you, like we don't want you around, like, and banned him randomly, even though he like owned the project or something. And then they let him back in, and I never found out what happened. It sounded like a fun little bunny trail to find out.
does.
I want to find someone to tell me the tale.
That's really interesting to me because I'm an accountant, and I'm kind of like wondering what all is on the blockchain, since that's public.
Oh,
I wonder what else we can dig up about
We've
him.
been looking for an account.
Adam, I'm going to go ahead and write and send you that NFT.
I'm
so
not. I will
bad.
say though. I will say I'm not an expert in crypto or NFT. I just know enough to be dangerous. So don't get your hopes up.
I don't have my hopes up, but I do have
Okay.
my interest up.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
The number I love a bunny trail. I love a document that I don't totally understand that then someone else has to explain to me. That makes me feel like I'm a spy.
Well, I mean, and then for whatever you don't understand, like we said earlier, you just put it in Chat GPT, right?
That's right. Yes,
Oh,
and amen.
good.
I feel like Chat GPT I have a love-hate relationship, but it does make most of my action figures. Although the faces I make in something else. Yeah. So oh my God. Dweeb alert. I was getting funny up in here. Okay. So where are our feelings at, guys? Do we have feelings to talk about with the investigation? Is anyone brave to jump on? Or are you guys all chickens? Go someone. I don't think I actually can.
Andrew asked the question about
why do I think Malachi's go? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I got receipts for this. So when DOCA was launched, there's just a preponderance of evidence. So when DOCA was launched, the first two followers were Rachel Lamb and Malachi Bryan, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like, I have a number of alts, more than you know, and I don't use most of them because I do. I have a scary amount of alts that I can't access because I even have one shared alt, where more I might have two shared alts where more than one person has a password, but I lose the passwords so often. You know what, Anik? You can just stop. I don't want your judgment right now. Anyway, Paige, you can't figure out how to jump on. Maybe someone could drop the link because I lost it. 1 second.
I
But
can't do anything on
mean,
chat
wait,
though. It
1
won't
second,
let me post any. Here it is.
So that's one. So that was one indicator. But second was the retweet pattern. Very, very much matches Malachi. So first of all, Malachi's doctorate is in ministry with a focus on social media, which is stupid. And then I'm trying to think that I have like 100 things and I'm trying to, it's hard to name all of them. So on top of that, so Malachi's specialty is social media. And then it constantly was retweeting him. And then Malachi has a habit of inserting himself on social media. So he ran IHOP's social media and helped with it. He repeatedly has run different campaigns for, actually, I wouldn't even bother with that. The biggest piece of evidence for me, and I'm sorry I got rambly, but the biggest piece of evidence for me is that with oh crap, why do I'm losing my train of thought. I'm so sorry. I got tired all of a sudden. It's the okay, there it is. It's charisma. So Malachi, well, charisma posts an article written by Doka. And I believe, if I remember correctly, Malachi was like, oh my God, look at this article to Steve Strang online, right? And so they publish it through Charisma, and it's a Doka article. And Malachi, that same week, within days, has a book deal on the spirit of accusation. What was the article on? The spirit of accusation. So suddenly then, Malachi's talking about he's got all this research that he's going to be doing for his book. He's going to be doing data analysis. He's going to bring charts and graphs about how we're like a Marxist, liberal, woke crowd of agnostic assholes who want to take over the church or whatever the hell it is. And like, yes, maybe I am that.
It's not too far off.
Yeah. Maybe I am, but Andrew's not. Adam's not. Andy's not. So it's like, no, that's pretty much just me. You're calling me a Marxist. Did I vote for Bernie? I did. Whatever. we can disagree about those things. Do I feel you to dismantle the church? No. I would like to go to one, actually, personally. So just not the ones that exist right now. But
yeah,
you know, so it's like, so then he's talking about this research he's going to do. And then Doka is like, hey, by the way, we're hiring data analysts.
gosh, I know.
So
They have fully paid salaries and, you know, the works.
And so the way,
so creepy, that whole thing.
Well, so I'm an author. With a mainstream publisher. So my publisher is Hachette. Well, it's under Hachette. They own like 100 publishers. My publisher is Little Brown, which is with Hachette, and my husband's published by HarperCollins. So the way it works is you get an advance, and I'm assuming it would work the way with Charisma. It would just be a shitty advance, which advances are shitty to begin with. We've hit Sailor Susan o'clock, by the way. Andrew, he's saying, I think that was an Elon joke. Yes, it was word for word about hiring folks. As far as whether or not it was serious, it was a copy paste from Doge. However, well, it said DM, it didn't have a website. So it could have been a troll. And however, I think they are doing real research, and there are indicators. There are people saying, so Daystar flew to Orlando. And if you haven't been with us before, there's a bot. And if you say that, man, maybe our bot's gone. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask tech support. But we had a bot that explained that there's a drinking game, that when Ben Woods says drink, we drink. But Ben Woods isn't here. So Anika is doing it for him. He was sad that he couldn't come. I did message him today. But so it may have been a joke, but there's also evidence that Daystar is actually funding Doge, and there may be real funding.
Mhm.
And
That's kind of what I put together just reading that, figuring it was a Daystar type connection there with the money.
Yeah, so Barry Bones tracks Pastor Planes,
Yeah.
and Daystar's plane went to Orlando, Florida,
Yeah, I saw
just
that.
before that post.
Yep.
And there were some people who put that together.
Mhm.
So it's hard to say what it is.
It's more than coincidental, I will say that. Like,
Yeah.
correlation is not necessarily causation, but it's more than a couple darts hitting the same spot on the board.
Yeah. I would. That's a great way of putting it, because it's like I'm not gonna hang my hat on it, but I'm gonna keep my eye on it for sure.
Yeah.
So and there's I think there's a lot of money in protecting these institutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Daystar pulls in, I'm not kidding, just billions. And everybody, all the major ministers broadcast on Daystar. TD Jakes, Lance Wallnow. I don't know any other major ministers because I haven't been in the church in decades. But all the ones that people talk about are on there, and some of them pulled off, and
Mm-hmm.
and all of the commentary is political. And so it doesn't take a lot to go, wow, all your commentary is political. You're telling people how to vote. You're telling people what to invest in. I mean, these dudes are selling gold.
Oh yeah.
Like
And it's and I'll tell you right now, I'm a licensed investment advisor and a licensed accountant, and what they're doing is actually illegal. To give that kind of advice, investment advice, as an unregistered, it's and what's crazy is the people that actually play by the rules are the people that get fined. But the people that go do what they do, and because as a matter of practice, the IRS doesn't investigate churches unless it's a Scientology church. This is the last time, to my knowledge, that happened.
Yeah.
And they came to an agreement, a private agreement. And sorry, I'm not trying to derail your thing.
No,
Susan.
you please go. This is good.
Yeah.
Just that, like, it's crazy because the rules exist to prevent this from happening, right? Because it's to protect, regular, no-name people from getting duped by unscrupulous people giving financial advice that shouldn't be. And so, to your point, like, it's exactly what you said. You got people trying to sell gold. You got people pitching. I remember at Bethel, there's this big fad that happened. This has been years ago. The Iraqi currency, and like, this is the next big thing.
Whoa,
You need to
what?
invest in the Iraqi. What was it, like dinar or something like that?
Okay, that's.
Oh, hold on. Tell us more.
I need a rewind. What the hell? Sorry, I'm having trouble processing.
It was.
Why are we investing in Iraqi currency? What?
Well, because I'll tell you why. They said that there was this, and I don't know who gave the word, but it was somebody. Andrew John Collins was talking about that with me on his podcast. I'm the one that brought that up. And anyway, it was a prophetic word that somebody gave. I don't know who gave it. I can't remember. Maybe somebody can dig it up. But Bill actually talked about this from the stage. I remember him publicly talking about it. But anyway, it's all back to the concept of churches. And Daystar is registered as a church, even though it's $1 billion TV network.
Yeah.
And so they're able to skirt the they're able to skirt sort of the scrutiny that the IRS would normally bring and the SEC, right? And
Yeah.
so because they're church, but you get Joe Smith out there that tries to pull this, he's going to jail, like straight up. He'll be fined into oblivion. He'll go to jail. So for me, it's infuriating because I actually work in this space.
Yeah.
And then you got these idiots out here giving people advice, and grandmas over here 1-800, donate now, and they're getting taken to the cleaners over it.
Well, and what
And
they're really doing
it just
is they're
infuriates
pumping
me.
up that stock. I mean, they're doing the same
Right.
thing that Musk has done, where he will pump up a stock and then he's pulling out, dude.
Yeah.
Like he's pumping it up so he can sell it. And that's exactly what these guys are doing, because they've got this massive network where they're like, oh my God, the Lord told me, blah, blah, blah. And they're getting away on religious liberty because they feel like God told them.
Right.
But like Malachi gets an NFT called the Spirit of Accusation. And you know what? We should all put our heads together. We should we need to launch a cryptocurrency called the Spirit of Accusation just for the hell of it. But so he starts a cryptocurrency called the Spirit of Accusation, and he's like, oh my God, invest in this. This is where it's at, or what? I don't know how this works. But he's got a network, and they all do it, and then they pull right out.
Yes.
And it's a pump and dump. And
which that actually is illegal too. That's against federal law to do that. Yeah. It's one of the things the SEC. But as it happens, they typically don't go after church entities. However, I will say this: they went after the Mormons. If anybody's followed that story, that's interesting. If you're interested in finance, go look at that.
Yeah.
The Mormons got investigated by the SEC. This was 2 years ago, I think, because it came out that they had more money in their endowment or the fund than some of the biggest investment firms in New York.
Rich.
Oh God, they have gobs. No, the Mormons. Oh, the Salt Lake City, and they actually got in trouble. They got fined. It gave me hope that, I mean, the Mormon is a big fish in the pond, probably the biggest fish. But it gave me hope that, hey, maybe there can be some, accountability. I doubt that places like IHOP or Bethel will get the attention, but Daystar might, because if they're in $1 billion land, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just a pipe dream of a hope, but
I feel like there are way more, politicians involved in Daystar evangelical ministries versus, the Mormon Church. From day one, I mean, these organizations have been very transparent about, we're going to place people in the political realm intentionally so that we do have more power and influence over decision-making processes. And so I feel like just knowing the history of some of these big guys connected to ministries like Daystar, they're untouchable. I mean,
they really are. That's a good word for it.
It's really frustrating. Oh, please go ahead, Melissa.
I would just say it's the dominionism,
Yes.
teaching.
Yeah,
just take over.
That is exactly what it is, because it's not so much the conservative versus liberal. You can debate that, right? But it's the, when I think of traditional conservatives and traditional liberals and what that looks like, so social issues out of it, when we're talking about fiscal policy, right, it really comes down to that, right? And just real differences there, and that's fine. That is what it is. Two different approaches to how we spend our money. When you look at what the dominionists are pushing, they're pushing control of media.
Yeah.
Correct.
Whereas conservatives might have certain feelings, but they're not trying to control media. But dominionism is trying to control media. They're trying to control schools. They're trying to
Mhm.
control everything.
All the realms, all the mountains, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, all
Oh,
the
yeah.
mountains.
And you know
And-
what?
And they're infiltrating them very intentionally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're very effective. And it didn't start with Dominionism. It goes way back to, I think John's got all the facts on it, but like 1800. This stuff has been around for a while. It's just been repackaged, reused,
Mhm.
rinsed, and repeated. And here we are. We're most of us 30s and 40s now, and we woke up and got thrown into a movement that had all this history back here, and all this momentum, and all this influence in all these areas, and we're finally waking up and seeing what in the hell we got ourselves into here. I don't know. I feel like I just kind of mumbled my way through that sentence, but
I'm following. So, okay.
Yeah.
So right here, I want to pull this up real quick. After Tavia
Andrew
Hunt brought
said
up the
soda
Bob
makes
Jones Super Bowl prophecy, I started to wonder if the Chiefs have given to IHOP. So I don't know the answer to that. I know I've heard there's overlap. And I don't know the answer to that because I was not in with the in crowd enough. But I will say, I know that there were Chiefs families at Metro. And I know that if you think about it, like the Hunts, right? Like, do they own the Chiefs? Is that right? Or they? Man, I need
I
somebody.
think so. I think so.
That comment was so triggering. I was like, oh Lord.
I think
Like,
everybody just wanted to freaking
Promote, right?
The Chiefs gave the stadium for the Send. They funded it, Nicole? Like they donated the cost or whatever? Okay, Jack Stedman and Dodd Stedman are brothers. I need a translator. Yes. Allie,
Wait a
which
minute.
part
Yes.
do you
Who
say
brought up?
yes
Who
to?
brought up?
She said yes twice, 2
She
times.
said yes. She's saying yes to 2 things, and I don't know which 2. There's a lot happening, guys.
Wait, I
Yes,
asked something.
Paige is
What-
helping. Yes, the Hunts own the Chiefs. Okay, so the Hunts own the Chiefs. So there is a huge, huge advantage
Mm-hmm.
to getting people pumped up. You get people pumped up, they're going to watch the Chiefs. Yes, the Hunts own the Chiefs. Okay. All right, perfect. The owner of the Royals meant it. So let's think about what
wow.
happens when
I didn't
you
know
have a prophecy pumping up your team.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
And not just
Wow.
pumping up your team. So that's going to affect sports betting. Right.
And apparently the refs are in on it too. So they're
yeah.
just cheating all the way up to the top.
All right. So you get your refs in on it. Right. And
we're gonna make sure this happens.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure this happens. You throw it with the refs. Cue the wall with the Western connections.
We're gonna have
for all of our sakes, I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up. Hold on. We're gonna go here right now, guys. We're gonna go here. This is where we're going right now. One sec. I'm pulling it. It's happening. All right, here we go. Settings. This is always so difficult for me to do. Present. This is not worth it at all.
This is where you need Brantley.
No, wait, Brantley, I miss you. So this is us right now. Okay. So we're just gonna channel. We're gonna go with this energy right now. Emily believes in me. Andrew, have a good night.
See you, Andrew. Good to see you, man.
But how many millions of dollars was funneled back from the IHOP community into the Chiefs? That's Bickle's son owned a sports betting company. That's actually true.
So somebody brought up the Stedmans. It
was called Shit Bets, by the way, everyone. I just needed to share that. Okay,
that
go ahead.
Jiffy, that Giffy.
No, Paul's company, Paul Bickle's company was called Shit Bets.
Oh, Paul's company. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say somebody put in the comments. They were talking about the Stedmans, and that was that was a throwback when I was there. And I didn't really
Hmm.
crazy. I had no idea that the Stedmans were connected to the Chiefs.
So this is really interesting. So back from the Metro days, there was another family, and I was like, that I knew, right? They ended up being the son, ended up being the pastor of the church, but he was so Bob Hartley. I don't know if you know this, but he was I'm gonna get this right, the chaplain to the Chiefs.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, wow.
For yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Anik, this is what I ask myself every day.
Yeah.
So are you saying?
prophetic history? What? God, what is wrong with me? I
Oh
didn't
my
listen to
god.
the 12-part CD.
Well, they were
Also the Royals in
leaders
the
that
80s.
they were at Metro there, in the early years when when Mike was transitioning, and then even after Mike transitioned out of Metro, they were there.
Oh, and wait, I need you to tell me if Bob was chaplain to the cheerleaders, because that's a whole different thing.
She would know. She would know.
Oh my God. What I was going to say was that the pastor of my church that I went to post IHOP, his dad was the bus driver for the Chiefs, which was so weird. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Owen's got
Hartley
all the
was
goods. Bring it
chaplain
up.
Oh my god.
and chaplains to the Chief cheerleaders, which is a
Oh
whole
my
other thing.
gosh.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
fact
Okay.
is we have this many people at IHOP who are
This is
prophesying this shit.
Yeah.
okay. This is blowing my mind. Like, okay. So are you telling me? Because I'm thinking of the players, right? Is Taylor Swift in on this?
Oh, that is a great question.
Don't break our hearts right now. This is I have a whole playlist that somebody shared that's like 90% T
Like
Swift.
they're
called
literally
Leading a Cult.
surrounded by these people. So like,
Oh.
are they constantly like talking about this stuff with the players? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
God only knows.
Taylor would not approve. I'm sorry, he carried around pictures of them to pray for them. I just want to throw myself on a window right now. Why do I not live on a second story?
What?
Apartment?
What did I miss?
He carried around pics of them.
I just need to throw my I
oh
can't.
my gosh. I feel like
Taylor's
Taylor's
just
such a nice person though.
Oh,
Like,
no,
I can
Julie, stop
It's
telling
like
me
one
that
big.
Taylor was sleeping with Bob. Didn't you know?
Oh god.
Get out of your page.
Oh.
I can't. Oh my god. I just there's so much there. Like when you peel back the layers, I just have so many questions and it all boils down to money. And it's so much. I come
Yeah.
against Jesus, hold on. Where's this?
Sorry, Jen.
Oh,
I just have some really big questions about this. Like, this is
this is the questions that I need answered in the investigations that's coming
really
up
need to
Monday.
know.
Yeah, like the real questions are: is Taylor Swift involved? What were all the revivals that we were in focused on? Selling Chiefs tickets and Taylor Swift albums
Whoa.
eventually.
That was the end game, y'all. That was the whole point of the whole thing
Like,
right there.
Was this really about the
Getting
cardigans? that
Kansas
she's
City
selling?
back on the map.
Yeah, was this about making it so it wasn't a flyover state? Like what, Chase, where's Chance the Rapper? I feel like
Oh my
it's
God.
gonna be
I'm
tomorrow
technical.
when Russell Brand is promoting the prophetic history. I feel that in my soul. I'm gonna drop the link one more time in case one of you guys wants to jump on. Otherwise, when we hit 2 hours, we're gonna pop off. So it's up to you. Do you want us to go past 2 hours? I don't know the reference because I'm not that cool. There's nothing I can do. you said Endgame, and I was like, Ender's Game. Jen, you could rebuke it by coming on here. There's like,
Yeah.
I don't want
Get us in line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, what? Justin Bieber's mom was in the prayer room?
So
Yeah,
Justin
I would
Bieber's
pray for
mom
him.
came to
No, I
Bethel.
wouldn't be surprised. Actually,
She came
I
to
can see
Bethel.
that. I can see that.
I could,
Yeah,
I
she's
could
been in the youth
absolutely.
movement. Yeah.
Paige, you're sitting in the waiting room? Okay, what am I doing wrong? I don't see Paige in the waiting room. Does anyone see Paige in the waiting?
Oh, Taylor Swift has
I
a song
don't
called
see it.
Endgame.
Tech support, could you message Paige? I have a redheaded tech support dude that I hired.
Oh my gosh.
He's bearded.
Travel nanny for the
He's
Bieber?
from Virginia.
What?
What is
What?
that? Okay, I have so much happening. Okay, wait. Where's
So I'm trying to
Travis?
see if there's a way on our
Someone
end, but I
start
don't
it.
see a way.
I need to know about Travel Nanny. Where is this?
Yeah, where's that comment?
If we tell the
Nicole
Swifties we
Ann.
can make an natural, but that's so true. A bunch of Lou Engel's people hang with Bieber. So Bieber was at that one Hillsong church.
Yeah, New
Okay.
York. Yeah.
So here's the list. Here's the links. You click the link. What happens if I click the link? I'm gonna find this is the link, and you click it, and you should be able to come on, Paige. I'm pissed. Registering wall isn't big enough. I'm telling you. What's really wild is so you look at you guys got to follow Barry Bowens and Pastor.
Yeah.
Bowens.
He's good stuff.
Yeah, he's putting together all this insanity, and he's not the only one, but he's an easy one to follow, and you can track where these guys are going. Oh, I heard someone pop on. It's Paige. Here we go.
Okay,
Hey.
never
Hey.
ask a dyslexic to type in the feed the link.
Oh no.
I tried it like 3 times, so apparently I still never typed it.
too. Okay, hold
Hey,
on.
guys.
Boom. Everybody's coming.
Yay.
It's my favorite.
I couldn't find the link.
Sorry. It
Yeah, the
happened.
link wasn't working.
Boo.
Yeah, I don't know what we did. We're out of practice. We're rusty.
It was hidden in the glory. It was
Corridor of glory. Yeah, there was a corridor, but you guys followed
Somewhere.
it. This is actually the New Jerusalem. It's kind of lame.
So I was going to say that in the 80s, when I think those prophecies were really spinning, it was the royals that were hopping. So it was George Brett. It was that era. So, and I'm almost certain that the owner of the Royals was at Metro. Because he's now at a church in Lee Summit, and they make it a big deal that he's there.
Crazy.
So
Wow.
I
Do
think
you know what
it
years?
wasn't about Chiefs tickets; it was about Royals tickets.
Do you know what years he was there, Paige?
George Brett.
Yeah.
I know he was there in '85 because
Oh, that's way
my
back.
my family went to see him play. I'm dating myself. But it was in that era, like before and after. That was like the George
Gotcha.
Brett era. Like he was the guy. He was the
Yeah.
Mahomes of the era.
Okay.
So I think it was actually about Royals at that time. And so they were trying to boost the Chiefs. And then when they said, the Chiefs and the Royals will win, they thought, well, that's never going to fucking happen. Like it was not like the Royals were bad or the Chiefs were bad.
So this is what's really interesting to me is that I was trying to see the comments, but I can't. I think there was a Royals prophecy to Amy. So what always strikes me is that Pat Bickle, right? They held this whole big event for him in, I want to say it was the Chief Stadium, but it could have been the Royal Stadium. And I always wondered if Mike was trying to make an event that was about him, because they like held a parade for Pat and they held a fundraiser. And I always wondered if he was like, as a narcissist, right? This, I feel like such an asshole saying this, but if he was trying to like one up his brother and be like, yeah, and I'm also going to have an event at the stadium for myself. And that's where the obsession with Chiefs and Revival and blah, blah, blah came from. And I know it came through Bob Jones or whatever, but like these were all made up. Like this is not, none of that was real.
Yeah, that was arrogant.
Yeah. All right, so here we got some facts real quick. Ewan Kaufman was owner 1969 through 2000. There was a window of time in the 80s when both Chiefs and Royals were both good, so maybe that's where some of it's coming from. They prophesied Royals in 2014. Kaufman died in 19. None of this means anything to me, so I'm trusting you to put pieces together. I understand sports.
We need the whiteboard back. We
It's
can.
good with dates. I know this feels like one of those like we need a whole timeline to put
We
together.
need. Allie's got
If
a great
only we had a
timeline, and
large-
we're
I was
gonna
gonna
need
say, Allie had that timeline she did. Yeah.
Allie, we're gonna need you to put in all those prophecies as well as the entire history of the Chiefs and their owners.
Allie's
We're gonna
from
need
KC.
like Justin Bieber's mom spotted in the prayer room, like
Could we
2003.
secretly go into the prayer room and then paint that on the wall? Because that would just be epic.
Just in
The
the
real
middle of the night.
prophetic history.
Here's the real
Yeah.
story.
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, Allie knows. She's from KC. But yeah. Oh. There we go. I clearly typed that. Correction, 1993 through 2000 was his estate. This is my favorite comment tonight. No, wait, that's not it. Wait. Here we go. You guys, we would have the strangest yearbook. You know what? We need an IHOPKC yearbook. We cut out everyone we don't like, but it's the rest of us with our photos from our IHOPKC years, and then we just all meet up and get it signed.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. The dream about the apostles marching to the stadium.
That's the wild part.
Ah!
Yeah.
Nothing else happens. Sorry. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't even know. All right.
This is not where I thought this night would go. So
I didn't either. I think, you know, I don't know.
We didn't think our lives would go this way.
I think once all of us are in a room, sometimes you find just the insanity in it and go with it.
I think the common denominator is when you are in the room and then everyone else follows the many, many squirrels running rapid through the forest.
It's not my fault that Bradley's not here to keep me on track. I need him to come. Stand, serve, minister, and burn book.
Yes.
That's the one. All right, so here's one. Do
Yes.
we really think IHOPKC wants to restore Mike? I think Mike wants to
Absolutely.
restore Mike. I think that the Taylors do not have the charisma to carry it without Mike.
Yep.
Do I think that they will try to restore him directly? No. I mean, unless they're really dumb, and they could be. I don't know. That last clip I watched was pretty something else.
I mean, I think that's originally was their plan.
Yeah.
Was to restore him. But then like it kept pummeling. And to me, that's some of the beauty of the Firefly is like, let's do this really narrow thing where we only really talk about very specific types of use and still come up with 200 people willing to report. Which we know, like, not everyone is going to be willing to come forward. And so when you already have that many coming forward, the Taylors are going to have an uphill battle if that's what they want. Now, the Candlers is a whole other story of whether or not they want microstored.
Are they still at IHOP? I think they just left, didn't they?
Yeah, I think I heard they did leave
Okay. So
because they started the other church, unless that folded too.
That just, I don't think that's manifested, but I do know that. So I think that Matt announced
Who is left,
a
Dr. Brown?
right, but I think that no, the Taylors didn't left.
Not the Taylors, the Candlers.
The Candlers left.
Candlers
They
left.
announced a like an online leadership program type thing. They pulled a Dean Briggs, and I have feelings about Dean Briggs.
Yeah.
Wait, that's right. Their brother did start Radiant.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're not their brother is not the word owner is not the right word, but the founder of like the entire network that is what's his face, who's got his own issues. Man, I cannot remember his name. I bet Mr. Juan would know.
Are you talking about? You're not talking about Lee, are you?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
I got issues with Lee.
Lee Cummings.
So, Lee Cummings is really interesting. So if you look in his prophetic history, which he has, I found his file because they host it online. It's got Lance Wallnow. It's got Jimmy Evans of Daystar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole thing. And it's really kind of freaky. Amy, I don't know if it's Matt's brother or Dana's brother, but I think it's Dana's who started Radiant. And
it's the triplets.
Yeah.
So Dana, Deborah, and Matt are all triplets.
But not
David. Yeah.
Not Matt.
Is it Kevin?
The third brother is the triplet of Deborah and Dana.
There we go. Yeah.
That's what
I
I
was
was
going to say. Yeah, yeah.
Red Matt.
I'm like, Matt didn't marry his sister. That's what I
did not.
But it's IHOP, so we never know. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. David is Dana's brother. There we go. Okay. So what's really interesting is there is an account on Facebook that you can find called Nazarene the Resistant. And it is the Nazarenes who the triplets are from. So there's a Nazarene community that was initially more enmeshed with IHOP that started speaking out against IHOP. And they've been speaking out against IHOP for a good number of years. I think I first found them around like 2018 or 19. And they were talking about how basically Mike stole away their youth. And I do remember I was working at Starbucks and there were a bunch of Nazarene people who were working from that church. And I was like, why the hell are you going to IHOP? Because they're not charismatic. It was really weird. And I didn't know that David, Dana and Deborah's brother, was Nazarene, that all of them were Nazarene. I had no idea. It was wild. So that was a really, really weird connection. Kansas City is like inbred. Kansas City churches are. Yeah. I mean, I went to an Anglican church, and it turned out that it was run by Andy Kavitsky's son. I was like, what the fuck? I can't get away from this.
Oh my God.
Like, there was nowhere I could go. Like, it was everywhere. I went to another church, and it was like a non-denominational. It seemed unrelated. So I go to one. It was New Life Fellowship, which was a Metro offshoot. And I was like, okay.
Oh, interesting.
So then I go to another one. And by the way, they helped run the Daniel Academy.
What part of town was that in, Susan? That New Life. What part of?
It was like Grandview-ish. It might have been technically KC proper, but I think it was Grandview.
I think that's where they started, and then they moved to Warnall.
Yeah. Yep. That's
Okay.
right.
Off-road
Yep.
bridge.
Okay.
Yep. So then I
Inbred
go to a church called Bridgeport, and there's a ton of cool people there. And I'm like, okay, this is chill. This seems good. And it turns out that Bridgeport is actually an offshoot of New Life. And it's Sam Newby. He grew up at Metro,
Oh my gosh, I
and
know
his dad
Sam.
works for the Chiefs. And I was like, fucking hell.
I know Sam.
And Michael Sullivan shows up, and I'm just like, it's all the same people. So I go to the Vineyard, and I'm like, it's a Vineyard. It's fine. And then I'm like, oh, this is literally old Metro as a Vineyard.
Yeah.
Oh, New Day. I meant New Day, Nicole. Yeah, I was at New Day. It wasn't New Life. It was New Day. New Life. And then I went to, so then I try to go to this other church called New City. And I'm like, yeah, this is fine. They're not even charismatic. This is fine. Yes, Jen, I went to Vineyard Overland Park. So then I go to New City, and I'm like, this is fine. It's fine. It's a non-denominational, but they're not like charismatic. It's whatever. And it turns out that at New City, the associate pastor is literally from Metro and went through Master's Commission. And I was like, God damn it, people are freaking everywhere. And like, yeah, and the Vineyard Overland Park was super gnar, and that is why we left. And I was like, absolutely not. Oh my gosh.
I didn't know
Probably,
about all
like,
those offshoots like that. That's crazy.
Oh my God. No, you have no idea. Like, all
You're
of
just
them.
getting
Back to the
started.
whiteboard.
And one day,
Right.
then I go way far over, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm like, babe, Reef's like, let's go to a church. He was like, what if we go to oh man, what was it? What were they? They were like an Eastern Orthodox church or something. And I mean, it was like, we went way out there. And the pastor of this church, and we're talking, there's iconography. They're coming in with like incense, okay, and like
The bells and smells.
Yeah, I went we went all the way to the other end of the spectrum, and I find out that the pastor is my friend's dad, who I sang sets with. And he's a former IHOPper, and I lived in the goddamn house that he was renting out. And I was just like, I can't. There's nowhere to go. Like, I can go to the Unitarian church, and that's like it. Like, I would go to like a Presbyterian church, and I would see IHOPPers. I would go. It was everywhere. It was like you could not go to church. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. The Orthodox Church was an old Metro guy, and his daughter was from IHOPKC, and I lived in his house. It was so much.
And here's the thing, Susan, still being in Kansas City, like, it's 10 times worse now.
Oh my God.
We have not visited a church where we have not run into IHOPPers.
And they're not the ones who have done the work. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. I left IHOP after a decade, moved in with my parents, and over 55 and over, and I walked to a Methodist church just outside their neighborhood, and they started an IHOP 6 months prior. It's a Methodist church.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they coming in with the edge chewing. They really did. Literally no escape. I can't escape. Okay. I tell you what, way too many connections. Vineyard, Bethel. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other day, that's an exaggeration, but I'm walking. I'm just walking. I'm walking home. I walked my kid to school late. And I'm walking home, and my neighbor next door, literally right there. They live in like this converted duplex thing. So it's not a duplex anymore. And so there's 2 front doors. I thought there was going to be 2 families. There's not. So they come out. She's walking too. She's much more disciplined than I am as a human. And she's in the middle of the street. She stops in the middle of the street. There's like a random ass van. And there, all of a sudden I hear like all this talk about revival. And when I'm like, I'm in a random ass suburb of Chicago. And these people, like, I was about to lose my shit. So later that month, I go to a coffee shop, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to just like, all this stuff has been hitting. It's been hard. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit. I'm going to write. I'm going to like, kind of like do a deep I'm going to have like Susan time or whatever and like try to be a human and feel like a human who didn't grow up in a cult. And I'm sitting there in this coffee shop and it was like Kansas City dropped into my lap. And immediately, I know you guys are going to know how this is. And Bethel, I've heard writings the same way.
It
Yeah, it's
is.
really bad.
Loudly talking about like, I just feel like what I really want to do is, and I felt like the Lord was telling me just deep it, and he was comforting me. And I was just like profoundly like the Lord and like so loud, like people are working in this coffee shop. I have
That stuff triggers me,
headphones in,
man.
I can hear you. And
Yeah.
I felt like he was telling me just like go, just like be, just like do, but like be with me. And like, I don't even know what I just said, but I know that's what I could say in these contexts and be right.
Yeah.
It was just like, I wanted to just, and I texted my husband. I was like, babe, they're everywhere. I'm going to throw them. I paid for this damn drink and I'm going to sit here, but it's echoing. And they were like,
wind.
and what I just really feel impressed on me. And I was like, I don't want to hear about what's impressed on you.
Yeah.
We felt a similar thing like in Texas where we were. It was actually a very small town and we didn't try because we already knew before we went. But I mean, the cultish leader person at the top, like it was so infiltrated everywhere and it was awful. Like there was no
You couldn't get away from
where
it.
to get away from it other than us moving. Like it was just mixed in every
It's one thing. Think about the statistical, this is where my head goes. Like, Susan, you're in the middle of like the third largest metropolitan area in the country, and you run into this.
Yeah, that's
Statistically, very rare, right? But imagine if you're in a town the size of Redding, California, which is plus or minus 100,000 people. It's like a microcosm of Chicago, right? It's you probably have whole neighborhoods of 100,000 people, and think about how much like that hits you day in and day out. It's everywhere. It's in the grocery store. It's in the
Yeah.
streets. It's in the wherever.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
God.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like it's so
Owen right
triggering.
here. I moved to the South and literally know several IHOPers here, but Bill Johnson's son planted his church here.
Yeah.
oh, and
And
you're
it's like, you can't run. Like you're just like,
Yep.
you're taking over the country. And before, like as a kid, like I remember I grew up in the vineyard and yeah, you could go to another vineyard and every vineyard was totally different. And now
Had
it
its
feels
own
like,
like fingerprint. Yeah.
yeah. And now it feels like not only is it all the same, but you're going to find somebody who did time at Bethel or IHOP or less likely Morning Star, because I got to be honest, that's the redheaded stepchild of Charismania. I don't know what Rick's doing, but he's embarrassing.
No one does.
Nobody understands. And then like, why are they still backing him? Like,
Yeah.
it's beyond me. Like, I'm just like, is this so that the bar is lower for every, like, is this like a way to lower the bar? Like, is that why we're having Rick around? Like, I don't even know.
and
Or
we
does
live
he
near
know too much?
Morningstar, like 30 minutes from Morningstar. And it's not respected in the area. Like people don't which is weird. I don't even know how it's like the
There's a
same
bad-
people actually that have been there, right? Like from when you went there, like 20 something years ago.
Yeah, I was a
that are
teenager.
still there,
Yeah,
and
I grew up around here, so I grew up, going there. Not grew up, but when I was high school and early college. But yeah, I don't know who's there now. I mean, we know people there, but yeah, it's kind of got a bad reputation in the sort of public.
Yeah.
Oh, I talk about connections. I went to Christian Missionary Alliance Church for a while, quite a few years. My high school years.
Allie's killing me today.
Sorry, Janelle.
What's going on? I'm sorry, Janelle. Allie's comment here. I'm so happy
Oh,
there's still
Allie.
black people. I will never plant churches in my neighborhood. And I'm like, I know that's true.
Isn't that the truth?
Don't
Like
worry,
the number
Allie.
of people
Stewart
who
will
were
come.
like the number of times that people were like, I was over on Truce today.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you
I
know,
lived
like-
off of Truth
I
Avenue.
remember when they were like, we were recording a music video on the other side of I was east of Truce. Like, and there's
I
like
lived
it's
off
all
the Truce, though,
capitalized
dude.
in how they're talking about. Like, I was east of Truce. And you're like, all right. So yeah.
my gosh.
Allie's like, I live on the south
Allie
side.
lives on South Side Chicago. Allie, there was a Chicago hop. I don't know if it was South Side though. I don't remember where it was. I went to it all of one time. I did one set post IHOP, and then I was like, I'm out.
Couldn't do that.
Bannister. I was over down by James. What was it? James something Road. There was Bannister, but then there was James something Road, and there was the best place there. I don't even know. They are nowhere near here. Allie, I don't know. Someone drove me there. I wasn't paying attention. I don't know directions. Who met me? I don't even know. They're probably not even in Chicago. Watch, they're like in Evanston calling it Chicago. That would be so.
Or another state completely.
James A. Reed Road, Nicole knows. What was that place? Olive Cafe. That place was so good. They had that map of Palestine. And they renamed it Israel. Do you guys remember that?
What?
So you go in Olive Cafe. So during the Israel Mandate meeting, whatever it was, the Israel, whatever. You know, the day we prayed for Israel during the global writing fast.
Mm-hmm.
No, not Bolingbrook. That's not what I'm talking about. There's more than one. No, there's Chai Hop, and that's fake. That's stupid. Chai Hop's stupid. There's another one. I'll find it for you, Allie. My friend was part of it. I don't know. I didn't go to Bolingbrook, but Reef did, like a loser. So that was my husband's inroad to actual IHOP, and I'm thankful for it because I married him. I snapped him up young, but like so young, like he was 19.
So sweet.
And then we had like 1 million children, which was not a mistake.
It was a choice.
It was a choice. We chose that, and we knew it was happening. So much, not Chai Hop. Chai Hop was so much. So I don't know if the other one exists, Allie. It might have closed. I don't know. Everybody's deconstructed. I got to be honest. So, where am I going? I was saying Olive Cafe. So there was this place called Olive Cafe, and it was run by, I don't even know, a family. I mean, it was definitely a family establishment. And I mean, it was like a grandpa and a dad and like the daughter. And the daughter was always like yelling at them. And you would go in there and there would be like a goat on ice.
Oh, wow.
Like it was like so authentic.
Yeah.
This wasn't
Wait,
Jerusalem
are you talking
Cafe.
about the place up in Westport?
No, that's Jerusalem Cafe.
Jerusalem Cafe. Yeah. I love
Cafe's
that.
good. That was great, right? And like they like kind of like give you a whole experience. Olive Cafe was like, it was half a market, first of all. And you go in there and they were like they would bring you food and then they would bring you more food and then they bring you more food. And you were like, I don't know if I ordered this food or not. And it was very confusing, but wonderful. So anyway, I was on Misty's team, and during the Israel, whatever it was, what was it called, guys?
Israel Mandate? Is that what it
Yeah,
was?
but that was like the conference. Well, it was
Oh,
just
yeah.
like a random prayer meeting. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, during the global bridegroom fast where I was literally never fasting. So it was like me, Paco, Misty, and whatever the bass player's name was. I don't remember. And we would go and sneak out of the Israel prayer time.
Israel prayer meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, we would sneak out of that and go to a place, go to Olive Cafe, and they had this map on the wall of Israel, and they literally had Israel whited out, and they wrote Palestine. And it's so amazing.
Yes.
Every time I went, I was like, okay, I see you. So they bring you so much food, like 18 types of olives, the best hummus I've ever had in my life. It was amazing.
Okay, I'm looking at been here, Susan.
I wish I could
It
have
looks familiar.
experienced.
I need to know about this. Adam, you have a goat story?
I can't write all in back in the chat. I can't chat. All that. I
What?
do have a ghost.
You can't write back in the chat. If
I
you're
can't
on,
believe she remembers that.
if you're on,
What's that? I'm not. Yes,
you
I
can
am.
just
I am logged
go
into
in the live
Facebook.
chat. Yeah, I was having
But
trouble with it too today.
I've been banned from Facebook. Might be the issue.
Oh,
You do.
trouble.
You can
Well,
also
I
just
stopped
open it
using
on
it
your
for 10
phone.
years, and then I came back on, and it banned me last week.
Oh,
so,
that's weird.
yeah. But yeah, I do have a goat story, but I can't believe Owen knows that goat story. Owen, you should come on and tell it.
Honest to God. And we don't need Bolingbrook. I'm looking for a chat. I'm looking for the other Chicago House of Prayer. Because nobody needs Bolingbrook. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't believe Bolingbrook is not Chicago. That's like West Chicago being called Chicago. That's a no from me. Reef is from West Chicago. That's why I'm saying that. And I used to give him the hardest time. When I met him, he's like, oh yeah, I'm from. Here we go. Oh, this might not be IHOP affiliated. This might be a different one. Okay. Anyway, when I met him, we were going around the IHOP thing. This is actually weird. My friend was like, "Hey, I think we had this joke." So I went to see the Bulls. We thought the Bulls player. This is weird now that I think about it. Anyway, we thought the Bulls player who was number 9 was super cute. And so she was like, when you get IHOP, count around the circle, and the 9th guy, that's going to be the guy you're going to marry. And I was like, okay, sure. And it was total joke. Like, we were kidding. We were taking the train somewhere, and she was like, you're going to meet your man. And I was like, okay, sure. And so I counted around, and it landed on Reef, and I was like, he is cute. And then we counted around I counted around the other way to make sure. And it was some other guy who was kind of okay. And he played guitar well, but boringly, and did not have good hair. But Reef did have great hair. And so we're all doing our introductions, and I'm paying attention. He's like, yeah, I'm from Chicago. And I was like, we're in Chicago. He's like, West Chicago. And I'm like, that's a suburb. You're not from Chicago. Like, don't try to pretend. Like, you never lived in Chicago. Like, get out of here. So, yeah. Dragging him because he's not here and can't stop me. If he was here, he would just take it. But yeah. Anyway, all right. Bulls or bulls, the Bulls. Owen can't come on because she's in her sauna. I just want to take a moment and say I'm going to come visit Owen and her sauna, because the number of times that I have been chatting with Owen and found out she's sitting in her sauna is so many. You know, Julie, get out of here. All right. It's almost 10. Are we having more feelings? Because we can talk through other things. If there's other things people want to talk about, don't ever say that again, honey. I'm uncomfortable. But is there anything else anybody want to talk about before we jump off? We really didn't touch. We didn't touch too much, Adam. It's being requested.
Yeah, y'all gonna make me tell a story.
I think so. I think it's happening.
This has been a while, but y'all know I'm kind of Southern, so grew up here, and nothing to do with IHOP. But when I was in college, my senior year of college,
sorry,
I lived in this. It would make the third world look like the first world house. It had running water, but that was, and electricity, but pretty bad. Like it was pretty much condemned, horrible house, mold everywhere. So anyway, the landlord, like behind the house, there was this kind of like barn / shed area, and it's just kind of grown up in weeds and stuff. And we moved in, and she's like, it was real hot. It was in the summer, beginning of our school year, and she said, "Now, there's just one thing that y'all need to know."
You gotta say it in the voice.
What
It
voice?
thus makes the whole story. How she,
What? I don't remember.
how country the lady was.
She was way more country than me. And she's like, I actually don't remember what it sounded like right now, but she's like, you're gonna have to water this goat. That's part of the deal when you rent this house, is you have to water this goat every day. And and the thing was like back in the weeds and stuff, and I'm thinking, I'm a college student, we're paying rent, like I didn't sign up to water your goat. And so we actually didn't water it. Like we didn't give it any water or anything, and it was just back there in the woods or the weeds. Well, we got one of us got home. I think I got home that one day, and it was the most god awful smell I've ever smelled in my life. Like it was just everywhere. Like within 300 feet of the house, you could smell it. And turns out goat didn't make it, and so it was back there in the back of the house and back in the woods. So that's the goat story. So we called the landlord and said, "Hey, the goat's here and we need you to come pick it up." Anyway, it was probably a lot funnier when I told the story back then, Owen. It was kind of anticlimactic. I'm kind of feeling a little embarrassed. So
I love so much though.
Okay.
That there was
Poor
a
goat.
like, yeah, this poor goat is like.
It was
That's
funny when you've told it in the past. He would do like the
I kinda
lady's
got into it,
accent,
yeah.
and like there's more details, but I remember when he first told me, I died. I mean, I was just
You were supposed to mow your lawn.
That's true. I forgot about that part. Golly,
They
she
gave you
remembers
the goat
everything.
to mow. Well, she's got a great memory. I tell you right.
That's true.
didn't it have
Yeah.
like
It had
crooked
one.
eyes?
I remember. Yeah,
Was
it had
this
one.
how this wasn't her
It
nut?
had one eye. It was a one-eyed goat.
It was a one-eyed goat.
It was a one. I forgot that part. It was a one-eyed goat. Yeah,
This
it
poor
was
goat.
pretty sad. Poor goat.
I didn't type.
Oh my gosh, that's my goat
Oh,
story.
man.
Thanks for listening.
I remember
It was
super
bloated. That's true.
bloated.
No.
It was bad, y'all.
So
Didn't you
it
find
just-
out later the house was actually condemned? Like you found out later
Yep.
that it was actually not like.
Oh my
It was a
god!
pretty
Yeah.
rough.
I feel like
pretty rough
that's-
place.
I feel like her nut should have been condemned, man.
Yeah.
It was just rough.
Yeah.
All right.
See, I got to move into Hernhut before it was all IHOPers. It was the very, very beginning. And the apartment across the hall had a minimum of 18 people living in it.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
That's
None of them spoke English. So it was an experience. Because it was such a mix of, because what they would do is wait until a lease was up and then they'd move in an IHOPper slowly one by one.
that tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had to put in all these bunk beds for fire in the night in the middle of a 40-day fast. So
Oh
we're out
gosh.
building bunk beds because that's what
Can I just say-
administrators do.
we were the type of people who came out of college where we're getting a real education, and we were willing to sleep in bunk beds as 20-year-olds
Yeah.
for the mission, like 5 to a room. I
Yeah.
remember like we had 4 or 5 of us at least in a room in our apartment in those stupid bunk beds. So it was just a 1-bedroom apartment with
Oh my
4 of us in there, and we were like, yeah, this is normal, this is fine. And I remember too, like in the apartment I was in, One of them was 25, so she was at the top range of the age. And she came in a week early and she decorated the whole apartment with like floral stuff, and she put like ivy up and stuff. And she had like dishes, but then she didn't want us to use the dishes. She had a plant. She had like a stereo system. And I like, she wanted us, she like put like covers on the couch or whatever. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like slip covers with like those little triangle things that like hold them down. And you shove them in between the cushions, whatever. And so she was like, yeah, when you get up from the couch, put the slip cover back, like push it in. And I was like, hey, I didn't sign up for your slip cover. Like, I know you're mad or whatever, but like, I'm not retucking this down. Like, you put this on here, that's on you. But like, I did not decide to slip cover the random ass striped couch with this. So like, there was an intervention. I've told this story before, but I'm telling you guys anyway. There was an intervention at one point where she's like, Susan, like, so I was like, I too am going to decorate. First of all, she was like, I just wanted to like put my mark on it and like whatever. And I was like, oh my God, me as well. I too want to just be who I am in this space. So I went to Walmart and I bought a Superman poster and I put that up, and it was not appreciated. In any way. And so then she's like,
idolatry, Susan.
yeah.
Idolatry.
And so I'm playing my Lauryn Hill Unplugged, MTV Unplugged. And she's like, I just feel demons coming through this. Love you, Owen. I'll see ya. Bye.
See you, Owen.
She's like, I feel demons coming through the stereo every time you play that. And I was like, probably because they're manifesting within you, and we could probably cast those out for you. And she's like, so we get in this like fit, like this fight, and I was really sleep deprived at the time, so I was not at my best. We're not like yelling or anything like that, but she's saying all this, and she's like, I just feel like the Lord and all this, and like, and I feel the Lord led me to like tell you about like how Lauryn Hill has demons and it's bringing demons in the house. And I was like, yeah, no, I feel it. I hear it. Let me I had a dream and I want to share. And immediately my other roommates are like, Susan, don't do this. And I'm like, no, I had a dream. That's from Jesus. And they're like, just please don't. And I'm like, I had a dream that I came in to the living room and the ivy, I saw it start growing. And it was climbing the walls and started filling the space. And it wrapped itself around my neck and started choking me. And
This is awesome.
She's like, Susan, I know you're not telling the truth. This is a false dream. This is blasphemy. And I was like, no. And I just felt like it was the Lord telling me that there's an oppressive spirit in this house and it's choking the light in me. Oh my God, Nicole knows. 100%. And I was like, I just feel like we need to break the power, maybe even like do something symbolic. Like maybe we just like pull down the ivy that's here right now.
Yeah.
And it was really bad. It was not good at conflict resolution. And yes, Allie, that's exactly the one. It's the one where she sings "Oh Jerusalem" and she sings "Conquering Lion." So literally, it's Lauryn Hill singing "The Conquering Lion will break every chain," like all this stuff.
Oh my gosh.
It's incredible. It's like these are like freedom songs. They're like, it's
great.
beautiful. And she's like, I don't remember what it was, but there was some term for it. Naomi Greaves told me off about it too. Rastafarianism. It's Rastafarianism. And I was like, okay, great. I don't really care. Like, whatever.
Most likely just Racism.
Yeah, I was like, it's a different R word. There's an R word that's coming to mind.
Yeah, let's just say it.
Yeah. So anyway, all right.
I
So
love that you told your Ivy dream though. That's awesome.
That was great.
Oh.
I should have done that as well.
So
I
not to-
did. It knew that there were moments in my time, like, because I think a part of us knew, like, a friend and I were talking about this. I don't know if y'all had crazy dreams or like weird experiences when you were in any of these spaces, but I think our bodies were picking up on it. Like our bodies knew. Like I don't care where you are spiritually. Like I don't care. Like we all know. Like I'm not like Adam and Melissa. You guys are Christian. Janelle, I don't know where you're at. Paige, you still believe in God, right? I don't actually know. I've never asked you. But I'm assuming.
Right?
It's just never come up. I don't know. I figured though, and
Tell us now on this
is.
public platform.
I know, like just own it or don't. But like, but you know, like I'm like the mixed up one. I'm the one who's like, I don't know. But I don't care where you're at. Like, I think our bodies pick it up. Period. Whether or not it's God. Like, I don't care about that. I'm not
100%.
trying to define people's dreams. Like, I've had weird
No,
dreams
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like my aha this week. I was walking out of a store and there was this girl in a very goth vibe look. And I thought to myself, there was a time in my life that I would be afraid of her. That I would have thought she was a witch, that I would have thought she had demons. And then I thought how much terror and anxiety I used to have that something invisible was going to cling to me. And I wouldn't know until someone else told me that something invisible has clung to me. And then I had to trust their word that they got the thing off of me. And like how much terror that really caused. You know, that I just walked around in fear of the demonic and really didn't there was no answer for it. And it is that spiritual one-upper that you were describing with that girl of like, well, I thought this, well, I had a dream, well, I had this, and there's like this trumping that happened. And it's interesting because I was in several meetings with Sean Bowles that were small, and that was what would happen was the one-upper.
Wow.
If someone had to be the ultimate.
Yeah.
No one else could have that level of prophecy except the one on top.
Right.
That's such a good point. There's so much damage done with that, like the demonic stuff. And that's been something like heavily deconstructed. And I know, Paige, you like, I was just going to say this for what it's worth for anybody, like in my own study of trauma, like nightmares and dreams can be a sign of trauma. Like, you know, like we're calling it
hypervigilance.
You know, I had that was a huge thing for me this week. So part of the reason I was having huge emotions this week was that so I had this experience that started happening while I was at IHOP where there's massive figure was, and I'm not going to go into all of it because it links into my own trauma. And it really was a manifestation, I realize now, of some of the abuse I experienced when I was really young. But it really, the demonic, actually, I want to touch on two parts of this. So one was that I was having these experiences where this huge, massive figure would come and just lift me up and like shake me. And I was completely powerless. And so there was now my abuse happened when I was really young, right? Or one of the instances of my abuse. But I think that there was this triggering happening where I was just being super triggered with this feeling of powerlessness, right? And so it's manifesting in the dreams, but then you're in that space where your trauma is triggered and you would tell somebody you trust, right? Like you're going to go tell, like, I don't know, I didn't tell Dave Sliker, but pretend I did. Well, immediately pretend you told Graham Walsh. I also didn't tell Graham Walsh. I told someone else, but the point is, I just don't want to out them at this moment. but the point is, they were like, oh, it's a principality. Yeah. Well, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That's fucking terrifying because you have this being is doing something to you. And then the demonic on top of that, it's this thing that enters you that you can't get rid of. And Paige, so we did that episode, we were talking about trauma. And afterwards, I was talking with this friend of mine, and she's like, I don't know why, but when trauma comes up, she's like, I love the episode. And every time someone's like, you have trauma, I have this, I'm so triggered. And I'm thinking it through, and I'm like, okay, why? And because that is exactly my experience for years, right? And I realize, I think I told some of you guys this, but when we were having these trauma experiences, right? Like Melissa, you're just saying, like, that can manifest, like trauma can manifest as these like demonic dreams, or like as dreams, vivid dreams, whatever. And in my case, I really think it manifested as these like shadow figures who were tormenting me, right? And later I realized they were acting out abuse I had like repressed, right? So now you deconstruct.
Yeah.
And you remove the idea of demons. You no longer think demons cause everything, but your framework is, this force is in me that I have no control over. And your framework is, right, like Jesus is what casts that out. I am powerless. Jesus is the thing that can cast that out. But now you're not sure about that. Like, say you're like me and you kind of lose your faith or whatever, or you don't even know anymore if you believe in that. Trauma inserts itself into that framework, the word trauma, and it's this thing that is now in you that you have no power to get out of you, because you've taken that Jesus piece, that like casting it out piece, whatever the anointing oil, whatever the fuck, like none of that works anymore. Yeah. And now it's this new scary thing that nothing has power over, because you don't know anything about it. And all the ideas that like the outside world is dangerous to you, therapists are dangerous to you. They're gonna, so you are just frozen. So Paige, when you were like, the body heals itself, the body's designed to heal itself. I had this moment where I recognized, wow, old Susan would have said, that's new age, I'm out.
Yeah.
And now me is like, I can integrate that. I can say, but I wish that someone had been able to say to me back then, when I needed it to come through the conduit of God, hey, God designed you to heal yourself.
Yeah.
Like that would have been so healing.
Yeah.
And I do think
love what you just shared. Yeah.
Like, but it took me like, 15 years to figure that out. Like, to me, 15 years to figure out that the framework of the demonic actually made the idea of trauma traumatize me. And it wasn't until I talked to someone else who had the same experience that I put that together.
Yeah.
Where we were just going back.
That makes so much sense. Yeah.
Well, and if you take that a step further, think about your dream, like the one with the dark character. So that is your body's way of telling you that there's a story that's terrifying you, and that it's ready to come out. It's ready to be released neurologically and physiologically. And so those dreams, those nightmares are invitations to heal trauma.
Okay. Yeah.
And when you think of it that way, when you start thinking about, hey, this terrifying experience is an invitation into healing versus what I was told, which was traumatizing. This is this outside force that's attacking you for unknown reasons, and
something
now you need
to get rid of or cast out or whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got taken through like Freemason renunciation at that point.
Yeah.
That's where that was. Yeah, I know. How many people said for Graham Walsh, and we did a little renouncing
the generational curses.
Oh my God!
Yes.
Straight to generational curses.
And so there's a difference between that and a flashback. So I just want to clarify that. So if someone's thinking I'm having a flashback and it's not the same thing.
No. And mine, I will absolutely clarify. I was not having a flashback. It was a dream that was, it was sort of attached to a memory that I hadn't unpacked and didn't remember. But then once I had a safe person to talk about that with, I woke up in the middle of the night and actually had a moment where I put 2 and 2 together of what it was referencing. And it wasn't till literally like 15 years later. And told a friend of mine who I knew would understand, and just felt the grief of it. And it was amazing, because it was just this moment of like that was really all I needed, was for that
Yeah.
moment to be seen and felt with me and have someone with me in it. That's all I
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah.
And it was those little moments are life changing, and
Mm.
it's really weird. Like, and again, I'm saying this as someone who has mixed feelings about the belief in God and whatever, but I also, I was raised in all this, and like that, there's that verse, like, blessed are those who mourn, who they will be comforted. And there is this reality where, if it, like, for me, there's this really real thing where, like, if you in a healthy way lean into that grief, there's such a beauty to being comforted in those places of trauma,
Mm.
that, and like such a depth to that experience where I have felt loved in ways that I did not know I was loved
Wow.
before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the whole blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Like, I never got that. Like, I was like, fuck that shit. Like, fuck you, frankly. Fuck. This is all right. We're going to do real quick blasphemy. Fuck the God of all comfort. Like, I was like, that's, I wrote a song as I left IHOP, which was, who is the God of all comfort? Oh, how he deepens my wound.
Mm.
Because the idea that he was the God of all comfort and he wasn't comforting me,
Right.
was so painful. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, where the hell are you? Why didn't you
Right.
stop me?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to say, you know, I don't think God cares if I say that. I think he'd be fine. He's a big boy if he's real.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
Can I
it's
say
a
something?
real anger.
Yeah, sorry.
Please do.
No, I
Go
didn't
for
mean
it.
to interrupt you.
You're fine.
I was just gonna say, I relate to you in that, like, even still being a Christian, like,
Mm-hmm. Me too.
it was so helpful for me to, because I had the same thing, like, step outside and go to a licensed therapist was like a huge whew for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And it was there that, like, and my therapist is a Christian, but we didn't bring that into the sessions. So for me, religious trauma to have any of that, like,
Yeah.
really eye-opening for experience that, and so healing. It made me think about what you said, just of another human. Like, I experienced that too, and how profoundly healing was, and how much I had missed all the deliverance, sozo, all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that was never at the core of any of that stuff. And so, I don't know. I just thought that it was very refreshing for me to, like, leave God, even as a Christian. Like, that was just helpful.
So refreshing.
Like,
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
100% agree. Like, in my experience, I actually had to switch therapists twice. But the first one was, it was more of the Christian thing, and I just couldn't do it. Like, you know, it was just more same stuff, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And like, I totally relate what you're saying. The God of comfort. I still believe in him, but when you describe that, about where were you during all of this?
Yeah.
Like, if I was supposed to be comforted during all this, where were you? Like, I don't know where you were, which is weird. Like, I still believe in him, but we'll have that question resolved.
I
in the
want to read
slightest.
this. I want to read this thing that I thought was so beautiful. This is from a while back on Twitter. And it was put so well. Find it. But like, I think about this a lot. Like, there was a song that I really loved when I was younger. It was an Ani DeFranco song. She's a folk singer. and she's got this song called I think it's called Steeple maybe, and it's like up goes the spire of the steeple. God's work isn't done by God, it's done by people. She's not a Christian, but she was speaking to the good. She grew up in faith, and I started thinking about like what was so painful. I was telling someone this week who DM'd me, and she was real sweet. She was like, "Hey, God sees you." And years ago, I think I would have said that to someone. And for me now, I'm like, and even 10 years ago, it's like, you see me and do something.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was my pain in church.
Yeah.
You know, my kids were going through profound trauma, and there was nothing. And so Alyssa wrote this last year in March. She wrote this sentence that has stuck with me so much. Didn't get nearly enough attention. I'm looking at it. It's like 16 likes. Like, what the hell? But it was early. As we learn more about abuse, may we be a sort of holy surrogate for this kind of love that truly sees and hears the wounded. And it was right before, like, I think it was like right around Easter. And we'd been having these conversations of like, about women and how women are the ones who bury the dead. Women are the ones who nurture babies. Women, so they nurture life, they care for the sick, all the parts that have to do with the messiness of living is always women's work, whether it's clothing people, whether it's cleaning their wounds. And I was thinking about how there's this push for masculinity in the church, and how if you really wanted to see healing, we would need to learn how to embody a sort of like feminine expression of life giving.
So
As a man, I couldn't agree more.
And that's not to knock the contribution that's traditionally male of protection and of you know, whatever. I don't know what men do. I'm not a man, but it is. I don't know. But whatever men do. No, I actually, I think, you know, like I've been married for almost 20 years, and I'm understanding more like that the way that my husband sees things is different than me. And I don't really ascribe to like gender specific ideology, but I do think we're conditioned. And then I think there are some biological things as a mother, like growing a kid in my womb did change who I was. Yeah. It fundamentally altered the way I thought about things. You know, like nurturing a kid with your own body, you're keeping a little human alive, and your body is responding biologically, and it is what it is. I do wake up in the night. I heard my kid inaudibly gasp, and it turned out he was dying. You know,
oh wow.
Some part of me that was just attached that I knew, and I went to check, and she didn't die because of that. So like, I do believe in this sort of like weird, there is something there. Yeah. There's something different that my husband brings that I just don't in any way.
So and medically, sorry.
No, it's that's exactly it. It's like I'm a quantum physics person. Like just you are just, there is an attachment that happens on a biological level.
Well, and on a neurological level. So when the placebo breaks off, part of it actually travels and embeds in the female brain.
Yes.
So we're hardwired to be attached to those little humans, and like we can't not feel them, you know. And our shared conscious, I feel like, is even thicker when it comes to, you know, those kids.
Yes. Like I don't get super new agey. This is just science. It's
Yeah,
just
that's neuroanatomy. That's
Yeah.
it
It's
is.
science.
And I don't ever want to lose touch with that, because I do feel like there's aspects of femininity that, you know, like you've got the hyper conservatives trying to pigeonhole us, right? Like I'm just gonna call them the abusers, frankly. It's nothing to do with conservatism. It's everything to do with misogyny and abuse.
Yeah.
You've got them trying to, it's the patriarchy's trying to throw us in and try to make masculinity into like this toxic bullshit Andrew Tate thing. And then, but then there's a very real, like I will be honest, like Reef called Mike way before I saw it. He was like, that dude's no good. He's like,
Wow.
he just was like, absolutely not. And there was something in him, and I can trust that. And it's just different. And so I think there are pieces that we bring based on our culture, our biology, our neurology, all sorts of things. I'm not pigeonholing anyone, but I was going somewhere with this and I've lost it entirely.
I think we're tracking.
I think you did good.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know where I was going with it, but it that part's true. I think where I was going with it is that we were talking about just how the church has so cut women out.
Yeah.
And what that has done. And there's this, you hear it all the time. They're like, oh, a feminized Christianity. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Even as someone who doesn't even know anymore, are you telling me that God is male? Because he's not. That's never been a part of Jewish theology, that God is male. He was the many-bosomed one. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was his name. Like his a mother, like it was some of the names of God are in I don't remember the language anymore. It's been a long time, guys. I nerded out and then my brain's a void, but there were feminine names of God.
But I think it is like a beautiful picture of what Open Spaces is doing and other groups is we are picking up that role of the caretakers. And so I remember in my own therapy session one time saying that it felt like the scene from the Titanic where everyone was just holding on to a piece of wood until there was no more crying.
Yeah.
And just watching people fall off into the abyss.
Oh my God.
The silence of it was deafening to me. And I was just weeping, thinking of like, we're losing people by the day.
Yeah.
And we're watching them just drift into the abyss. And that breaks my heart for the larger group. Like I wasn't at IHOP with any of you. I don't think.
Yeah.
And but I have such a love, because there's something about that DNA that got stuck in me. And even though it was bad, there was something in it, precious ones that were so good. And I can't dismiss their stories, and I can't dismiss their pain.
Yeah.
And I will hand them my wood and they can jump on the lifeboat.
Yeah.
I just don't want them to fall into the abyss and feel like there's no one.
Yeah.
It feels like almost like it's some kind of relative, or like the same way I would feel about like if you're in like a small country that's being just obliterated, how you would feel about the other people from your country. Like it's just like, these are my people. And I didn't want that to be true. Like there's no part of me that's like, yes, my people are the weird bridal cult. You know, like my people are, but even with like Morningstar, even with like Beth, like I just am like, I get you. Like I know what we grew up in. I know what we were groomed to do, and I can't, like, dude, sometimes the Bible verses bubble up and it's like, but it's foggy now because it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But there's
Mhm.
something like,
Yeah.
there's that verse. I'm gonna find it. I know what it is. I know exactly what it's embarrassing that I still know what it is. Oh my God. It's just you can take the girl out of charismania, but you can't take the charismania out of the girl kind of vibe. Like,
Yeah.
here it is. This is what it is. I gotta find the right portion. This is long. Is this not the kind of fasting I have chosen to loose the chains of injustice, untie the cords of the yoke? Trigger warning, reading scripture at random about fasting, and set the oppressed free and break every yoke. Is it not to share your food with the hungry, provide the poor wanderer with shelter, when you see the naked, clothe them, and not turn away from your own flesh and blood? And that's what it feels like. Like, these people are my flesh and blood.
Yeah.
And it is what it
Yeah.
is. Like, and I can't look away from it.
Well, and there was a common draw. Like, we all had a reason for showing up there, but there was this common draw. And I love that Julie Royce said she's never met a community of church people quite like IHOP, because they're all so passionate for justice and they all have this same sense of like need. And I said the biggest problem
Ben,
that
how
Mike-
dare you? I just needed to say hi to Ben because he was cooking earlier. All right. Anyway, go ahead. They all had a sense of need.
They
Or-
all
no,
had a
I
sense
got
of
that one.
need and a passion and
Yeah.
draw that was similar and an innocence about them in it. And she was pointing out, I was talking to my husband about it, and I said the biggest mistake that Mike made was to take passionate people and suggest they pray for justice. And that was his ultimate downfall.
So
Yeah.
true.
Because
Yeah.
we all craved it, we all wanted it, and so now that there was injustice and he put
Yeah.
it there, he's the one who taught us to like fight for it till the death.
Mhm.
And
Good point. Yeah.
I do believe that was his ultimate downfall.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we're gonna slip out here in a minute.
You know,
Y'all
We're
don't
an hour ahead, I think, of everybody.
y'all don't stop
Oh,
because
yeah.
of us. Y'all keep going.
it's a
But-
good moment.
It's-
Unless
it's
anybody
good.
else wants to jump on and chat and has anything pressing, I think we'll probably close out. But this was good because I want to say this, I think.
Okay.
I think,
Oh,
I don't know. I've had this like thought turning in my head for a while and I haven't known how to write about it. But it's been turning around in my head for like a couple weeks. And so I read this thing back in the day about like the early church. And the reason this was inspiring me, this has nothing to do with like religion per se. It has to do with living under oppression, right? That is entirely impossible for you to fight because it's too big and it's too strong and it's too. So this is like the Roman Empire.
mhm.
This is before Constantine, right? So the church is not a big thing. And so Ben's self-inserting here. But like it feels like when you look at like Daystar and you look at IHOP, you look how these guys are interconnected. They're like criminal empires, honestly.
Yeah.
Very honestly. You've got the NFL is somehow feels like it's involved in some dark ways. I mean, it's wild, right? And it feels not
Yeah.
real. And it feels impossible because we're like 25 people on the internet. But we're connected to this big, large group of people who's gotten really burned and lived with the damage of it. And like the collective trauma is wild. So anyway,
Yep.
a couple years ago, I was like, kind of desperate trying to find a church. I ended up looking at this Universalist thing, and I'm like, what even are you? And I just went down this bunny trail. And they started talking about how there were these researchers, they go to the early church, and they're like living in freaking tunnels or whatever under the Roman Empire who's trying to obliterate them. And they're obviously they're known for taking in all the people. The Roman Empire was like, just like, you guys are trash. So, and it was like really irritating to the Roman Empire because they were like, they're taking in all the orphans, they're taking all the widows, they're taking all the invalids. And so they're like extremely popular because they're like kind or whatever. Just all the broken people. They were like, yeah, there's a place for you here. So what was weird is that prior to Constantine, before religion became empire, when religion became like empire, a tool of empire, suddenly hell was like a huge deal. And before that, just like freaking wasn't. It was like hell was like this motivator and heaven was this motivator when Constantine got hold of it. And before that, Christians were they were like vegan pacifists. They wouldn't join the Roman army, nothing. They were anti-killing everything, whatever. So their art, so I was an art major, this is why I was even interested. All of their art prior to that, to becoming a tool of empire, was based on abundance, which is crazy because there was no abundance. And the concept was not future heaven. It was what we create now with each other becomes abundance. Like, out of what I have, I give to you, and that creates abundance under the thumb of empire. And that was the hope, and that was what was so attractive about it, was that there was no expectation that you can win. It wasn't about conquering. It wasn't about any of that. It was about existing now in the shadow of an empire and creating abundance and enough for one another. And the expectation was in the early church that would bring like hope and joy and just enough. Like there would just be enough. And that was the theme everywhere. Like everything was just like feasting but it wasn't heaven and hell. Like heaven and hell wasn't there yet.
Wow.
That came later. And it just like, it struck me. I was like, that is what some of this has felt like. Like it's not always a lot, but it's enough. And in a way that I didn't have it before, because there's people who understand. Like Paige, like you're like this therapist who's just like, I have something I can give, and like you guys are here and you have something that you can give, Adam and Melissa, and it's different and it's coming from a different place, but it brings this like infusion of like a little bit of hope and a little bit of stability. And like Janelle, like you're just stepping in with RFI, and like it's just like everyone brings this little piece of themselves.
Yeah.
And it's just like a little bit of hope. And when you put it on the table, it feels like enough. And that
I love that.
That's felt really good to me lately. Like when I look at the scope of it. So that's all.
Good. Thank you.
That's some good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
All right. Does anyone have any last words since I monologued again because Brantley's not here to stop me? Any last thoughts?
This has been good. Thanks for
Thank
having
you so
us.
much.
Thanks for having us on, and great to be with y'all. Really enjoyed it.
I need coffee to bring. I need Ben to bring me coffee and like really good meal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, oh yeah. I want to remind you guys, Adam and Melissa have a podcast. What's the name again? Remind me.
Grit in the Wild.
That's right. Grit in the Wild. Look it up. But they got a podcast, and I don't know how often you guys putting it out.
We don't really have like a set frequency, but we're probably due for another one here pretty soon. But we only have 4 episodes. It's real new, real small. We're just trying to have a conversation and unpack a lot of what we're doing here, really.
Yeah.
So trauma, spiritual abuse, and eventually want to have other people on it too, like interviewing stuff like that. So yeah.
I'm going to drop this link real quick and then we will close out. But thank y'all for coming on again. And oh my God, you got me all Southern. Can't even. Y'all. Like, I don't live in Chicago. I don't live in Chicago. I live in the suburbs.
Y'all
now.
is ubiquitous now, though. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah,
much
you guys
been
are
adopted.
filtrating every part of society.
Are we?
Stressful for me.
It's inclusive, Susan.
You know what? I'll give you that. Okay, I can't. For some reason, it won't let me copy this link because it hates me. So I think what I'm going to do is it's like bringing back Dr. Hassan. Oh wait, here. I'm getting an outro right now to shut me up. Get out of here. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Here we go.
Thanks
This
for
has
having
been
Yeah,
Open
thanks so much, y'all.
Spaces. We love
Bye.
y'all.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Have a good night.
Oh my
Bye.
God.
Bye.